All right. At 6 o'clock, I'd like to call the emergency meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government Council to order. And ask Mr. Gerald Michel, could you please lead us in a prayer and pledge?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the great miracle that no life was lost when this hurricane came into Terrebonne Parish. We thank you for the many gifts that you've given us. We ask that you please take us by the hand and guide us as we attempt to lead this parish through recovery. And please watch over all of those in the parish who are struggling right now. And for those who are not struggling, please bring patience upon them as we move forward to some sense of normalcy. We ask this in all things through the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Darren Guidry.
Here.
Mr. Babin. Mr. Dirk Guidry. Mr. Trosclair. Mr. Navy. Mr. Harding. Mr. Michel. Mr. Amade. Mrs. Domain. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
And as you may be aware, that we're not able to have our regular council meetings in September because our council meeting room was not able to be occupied, and it still is not able to be occupied. But we have to have a meeting because we have business that has to be done. So this is an emergency meeting that thankfully the school board has allowed us to use their meeting room, and I want to thank the school board for allowing that and allowing us to at least keep the government running in these trying times. Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on October 25th, 2021, which we've done. August 25th. Approve minutes of the regular council session held on August 11th, 2021. Moved by Mr. Danny Babin, second Mr. John Amade. All in favor say aye. Approve accounts payable bill list for September 8th, 2021, September 20th, 2021, and September 27th, 2021. Move Mr. Danny Babin. Second Mr. John Amade. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? General business. Yeah. Mr. Danny Babin is making a motion that we deviate and take up item 2 because Mr. Earl Hughes, Chris Pulaski, and Mr. Gordon Dove, our parish president, are currently meeting with FEMA representatives, and they're wrapping it up, and they're going to be here, and they will give us the latest information, hopefully good information. And so I will entertain that motion to deviate by Mr. Babin. We had a second by Ms. Domain. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item 2, an informational update regarding Hurricane Ida presented by Mr. David Rome, Public Works Director, and Mr. Clay Notcan, Solid Hazardous Recycling Waste Director. You have to turn your own mic on. There you go.
Good morning, afternoon, whatever. I have a comprehensive list of everything that Public Works has been doing in the last 30 days. Also some other keynotes that I think should be brought to the council's attention. We'll begin with roads and bridges. Our sign damage. Approximately 85% of the 17,500 traffic control signs in the parish have been damaged or lost. That is approximately 14,875. We have started on August 30th recovery and resetting signs. We have completed approximately 5% of that, which is to the tune of 745 signs that have been. We've prioritized the type of signs that we're worried about right now. Of course, stop signs is our #1 priority. A very close second is street name signs because of emergency services and 911. After that, yield signs, speed limit signs, advisory signs, and then eventually we'll get to the non-MUTCD signs such as children at play, things of that nature. We are in the process of having the RFQ completed for a contractor to come in and assist us with the replacement of the signs. Currently, we only have 3 crews throughout the parish, and each one of us 2 people. Road damage, we have The assessment is ongoing for roadways prioritized by major thoroughfares first, followed by arterial roads, and then eventually neighborhood streets. We did have to do an emergency closure at 1751 Acadian Drive today near Halea Avenue due to a sinkhole and a collapse. There's significant damage to aggregate roadways in the lower portion of the parish. Additional damage is expected due to the recovery efforts. As you know, there are several overweight vehicles that travel on roadways. It's inevitably going to damage that. Bridge damage. The assessment on all of our bridges is ongoing. All movable bridges and bridge houses have been assessed and were found to have some damage, some degree of damage. UK Bridge received the most. It was struck by two vessels, struck the span during the storm. We have had it assessed by DOTD and received an estimate for repair of $1,054,631. The Toussaint Foray Bridge also received severe damage. The near side abutment cap was shifted off of it, making it unable to be closed for vehicle traffic. However, we are repairing that in-house. Terrebonne Bridge received extensive damage to the bridge house roof, causing electrical controls to become damaged. Repairs are ongoing. We expect to have Terrebonne up and running normally, probably within the next 2 weeks or so, provided that we don't find any other damage to it. Bobtown Bridge house received extensive damage to the roof and the motor. The repairs are pending on that one. And the Dulac Pontoon Bridge experienced electrical damage. Repairs are still ongoing. Traffic light damage. All 15 intersection traffic lights owned by the parish and all 60 caution lights within the parish received some degree of damage. St. Charles and Valhalla traffic light is currently being repaired today. They expect to have it functioning by tomorrow. Hollywood at Valhalla traffic light is currently being repaired. Their estimation of completion is a little bit longer. They gave us probably October 1st for that intersection. The next intersection that they'll be going to is Corporate at Hollywood, and that is expected to be repaired by October 5th. All other lights are expected to be operational by November 1st, provided no unexpected delays. We did have some road and bridge projects that the council was interested in prior to the storm. The pavement marking project that was scheduled to start this month we have delayed it 60 days to allow for recovery efforts. The asphalt project, we have delayed that for another 120 days to allow for the debris cleanup. Pollution control. Sewer treatment facilities, both North Treatment Plant and South Treatment Plant, are currently operating at 100%. South Treatment Plant is still operating on generator power. 6 out of 10 sewer package plants are still operating on generator power. North Treatment Plant digester roof collapsed. We are now working on an RFQ to do removal of that debris and repairs that does not affect the sanitation of our effluent. We have several different methods of treating it, and we're just bypassing that for the time being. Sewer lift stations. We only lost one lift station completely, and that is Cleveland 2. That system has been placed in a bypass pump mode until the station can be rebuilt. All other lift stations are operational or have some type of temporary pumping there. 15 out of the 175 lift stations that we have are still on generator power. Our SCADA system for the sewer system has been completely knocked offline. Most of them run on radio towers. All of those radio towers have been lost. And the other ones that don't run on radio run on telephone, and either the demarcation box is gone or they lost the lines. Also, our North Treatment Plant still does not have any kind of communication there, as does my office. Good Earth Transit. The transit system is operational on pre-storm routes Monday through Friday. Additional temporary emergency routes were created to accommodate the public's need to access distribution sites and other critical areas for recovery. Those routes are available online. There's very many of them. Our rider fares were waived immediately after the storm. They will take effect again on October 1st, Friday, October 1st. And lastly, our mosquito control. We have been having trucks run every night and we also have a plane aerial spraying every other night. While our goal is to increase that even more, but we have to get approval from the Department of Health in order to do that. We have put in a request to go trucks during the day and night, and we also requested to do planes every night. We have not gotten approval on that yet. Our drainage report, an assessment of our gravity and force drain systems began on August 30th. This assessment was conducted by TPCG Drainage Department, the U.S. Army Parish Maintenance Contractor, and various search and rescue teams that were available. The assessment is still ongoing, and of the approximate 1,000 miles of drainage, waterways, canals, ditches, and lateral ditches, approximately 90% of the assessment is complete. Data collected from the assessment was used to prioritize where clearing and cleaning efforts is to differentiate clearing and cleaning. Clearing is we remove the obstruction out of it and leave it on the bank. Cleaning is we remove the obstruction, haul it off, and also dig the ditch if it's a roadside ditch if necessary. Clearing and cleaning of parish drainage systems also began on August 30th by parish crews, the parish maintenance contractor, the U.S. Army 46th Engineering Battalion from Fort Polk. We have since contracted with DRC, the debris removal contractor, to assist with this effort. Cleaning of the parish is approximately 14,200 drainage catch basins and 260 miles of subsurface drainage is ongoing as part of the contract with DRC. They will begin assisting in that effort. That was signed, I believe, this morning, and that is going into effect as well. I will refer you to the pump report, the pump and drainage report that Mr. Toops had sent to y'all for the status of our pumps and pump stations. I will note that many of these pumps have logged over 400 hours in the last 30 days. I believe right now we have 5 pumps down. However, we have placed temporary pumping in that. We are still at 100% capacity. We received approximately 15 to 20 inches of rain parish-wide for Hurricane Ida, another 5 inches of rain, 5 inches of rain from Hurricane Nicholas, and an additional 8 inches of rain on the northern part of the parish in less than 4 hours today. Moving forward, we are pursuing CDBG money, other emergency funds, not only to repair our infrastructure, but to improve it. This includes repairing and raising hard surface roads in impacted areas and paving aggregate roads that are constantly needing to be rebuilt. This includes Redfish Lane and the roads down in Cocodrie, Lower Dew Lodge Road, Shrimpers Row, Dr. Beatrice, Bayou Side Drive, southbound Mandalay, North Bayou Black Drive, and several subdivisions. This is in addition to work that we had already planned and through pre-storm projects. We also have placed a request through Web EOC for the construction of a 7-foot breakwater rock jetty from Boudreaux Canal to Robertson Canal along the west side of Highway 56 for an estimated cost of $500 million. I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Navy?
Yeah.
Get press it hard.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. A question I have about the garbage collection. I mean, the debris pickup. I'm understanding that the president extended that 30-day. I don't know. That's what I was told. The 30-day 100% reimbursement to 45 days.
There was an extension on it, and I think Mr. Nakan will address that when he gets his presentation.
Okay. I was asking a question because I want to ask a question about that. About since we do have 45 days, could we get extension on? Since 45-day extension, could we get another contract or something kind of help with the debris? So I just wanted to ask that question because of extension. But I'll wait for him to come up and answer that.
A very fair question, Mr. Navy. One of the things that I'm reminding everyone of is in order to get reimbursement, it has to be properly procured through federal guidelines, which is much, much more stringent than local and state guidelines.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we have a lot of people who call me daily wanting to help, and they do not meet those guidelines that are set forth by the federal government for us to get our money back.
Yeah, that's just asking that question because there's the trash and
Absolutely.
we pick up and just trying to get a little help on that. The other issue is for the infrastructure, I know you were talking about the bridges that got hit and all that kind of stuff. Did we just check any of our, infrastructure, that the ones that didn't get hit, just to make sure
Yes,
they're
sir.
safe? Okay.
All of our bridges. So we have 86 bridges in Terrebonne Parish.
Okay.
The first bridges that we wanted to inspect were the ones that are removable.
Okay.
That's 13 bridges. All 13 of those bridges have been inspected by my inspectors, by the state, and we also have a third-party contractor that's going to come. A third-party engineer that's going to come in and verify our findings, so that way that everything is checked very thoroughly.
That was my concern, because I didn't hear that any part of your report. I don't know if you say anything like that, because I was concerned about that, because the winds were very high, and since everything's been happening, you'd be concerned about going over those structures now because of the impact that it has, bringing down some of these buildings and stuff. So I was just, wanted to ask that question. But that's great. I'm glad that you all are inspecting those buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Mr. Trosclair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. David, I know you've spoken about it, but Country Drive wasn't on your list just now. It is on the list.
It is definitely on the list. Not only is it on the list, we do have some emergency temporary measures that we're going to start employing. We're trying to dance around the traffic, the emergency response, and all those other things that are critical to that area. But you're right. We definitely need to do something with Country Drive, and it will be taken care of.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Guidry.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to the problem right there we're having on Country Drive. I think a while back we had passed where there was going to be no heavy trucks passing on Klondike Road. Why hasn't this ever been enforced?
That would be a question for, I believe, the sheriff's office for the enforcement of it. I do know that the emergency crews, the debris cleanup and all, they have a waiver due to the emergency.
And I understand that, but it's all the oil-fuel trucks going to Lafourche and all. I know Steve Wright, we passed that where no big trucks are passing Klondike Road. And another thing is, Malage Brook pump station is gone.
Yes, sir.
So we are going to maintain pumps.
Yes, sir. I have the spare pumps out there right now that's given us the same capacity as we had before. I have spare pumps that's on standby in case any of those fail. And we are also going to be working with Sea Level to expedite the building of the new pump station that they were supposed to be starting this month.
Thank you, Mr. Rome.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harding.
I'm so glad that you asked that question, Carly, because I had a soapbox that I wanted to get on to. During this assessment, one of the most pressing issues and obstacles that we have faced is the encroachment on our right-of-ways and servitudes. We have been very lax with that over the past few years. This storm and what we're contending with, trying to get to lateral ditches that literally people have built their fences all the way up to, people couldn't even walk in order to get past those. That is something I think this council should really take a very strong look at on how we can remedy that and give it some teeth other than a strongly worded letter. But to answer your question, I'm hoping sooner than later, but I cannot give it an actual date because it's really is a ball and chain that's around us with fighting all these structures and things that are on our servitude to get these obstacles cleared.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, just one quick. I know we opened the Combo Bridge last Saturday to let some boats out, and you had mentioned that you possibly may do that again because there's still probably 15 to 20 boats north of that bridge. I think some of these people have now gotten some kind of house together that they're going to try to get out and do some more shrimping. So is that something that you have planned again? I know both those. We don't want to open and close those bridges very much because it would put those people on Strumpers Row on an island if we lost the other two besides the UK Bridge.
Yes, sir. Yes, we would like to do that. The Coast Guard, I've spoken with the Coast Guard, reassured them, Commander Blakeman, that we will do everything within our power to at least make it navigable at a scheduled time.
Good.
So if we have to move forward with a scheduled openings, that's probably what we're going to do. I'm waiting to hear back from the electrical contractor to see exactly what the extent of that damage was. My understanding was it worked beautifully on Saturday. They tried to do a test run, I believe, on Monday, and it was kaput.
Yeah.
So it really is going to be up in the air. But we do plan on doing those openings for those vessels to get out. We understand the importance of that commerce for those families down there to get back on their feet.
And since we're talking about that, what about the debris cleanup in the bodies? Little Kaya, Grand Kaya, by the Lodge.
That is
Terrebonne.
part of this assessment. We have the contract with DRC. They are mobilizing in. We are set the priorities for them to open the navigable and the major arterial waterways, because we could go and clean out all these ditches in the neighborhoods and save a half a dozen houses. But if that water gets to a blockage that's on one of these arteries, we just flood 1,000 houses. So it has to be for the greater good for the entire parish. So yes, sir, they will be doing that as well.
Okay, thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Michel.
You were bringing up about the fences and the encroachment. There's a lot of that in Broadmoor, of course. Okay, and it's stopping the lateral ditches from being properly maintained, and then ultimately causing possible erosion and fence falling. Okay, so my question is, and maybe this should be for Mr. Pulaski, but my question is, if somebody lost a fence and has to rebuild a fence because of the hurricane, do they have to get a permit? Okay, he's saying yes, they have to get a permit. So we need to publicize that, because this is the time to look at that. And would we hold up a permit if there's debris in the ditch and we would not be able to get to the debris as readily if that fence was rebuilt? Would we hold up a permit?
Yes, I'll answer that for Mr. Pulaski. So prior to, most of those fences in Broadmoor and many of the older subdivisions predated our letter of no objection process. Now, in order for them to obtain that permit, they have to come through my office for me to assess the impact that encroachment will be on our services. And I can pretty much tell you that I will hold a letter of no objection. I will give an objection to anything that will encroach on those services.
Okay, because a question came up to me today. There was a big, huge tree that fell down in a right-of-way and messed up somebody's fence, fell halfway into their home. They cut it up to the fence line, and their intention is, of course, to rebuild their fence. But that big old tree is back there, and we may not be able to get back there to get it.
We will.
Okay,
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you for that very thorough report, Mr. Rome. And, servitudes became a big issue after this storm, not only in drainage, but we had some of our power crews in some of my neighborhoods had to actually climb some of the poles because they couldn't even get small equipment into the areas. And those people were out of electricity a lot longer as a result of that. And so I think everybody's aware now of the need to really start looking at some of these servitudes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Knockan.
Clay Knockan, Terrebonne Parish Solid Waste Director, 279 Ashland Lanefield Road. Start off with garbage collection. On Friday, August 27th, the garbage collection was suspended to further notice to the mandatory evacuation orders. We had to take into consideration that the people working for the contractor needed to get their people out, so it was suspended. And on September 3rd, Friday, September 3rd, we had noticed that River Birch landfill would be opening with limited use due to damage to their scale house. Pelican also indicated that they would be able to start a one pass with administration's approval we decided to do an emergency one pass. The pass lasted on movable streets, and it wasn't a perfect thing because there was a lot of lines down and stuff where they couldn't get to. But the first pass ended on Sunday, September 12th. In that time, they collected 1,923 tons of debris, or 3.85 million pounds of household debris in just those days. On September 13th, Monday, September 13th, Pelican committed to twice a week collection in passable areas, with collection routes in some cases running a day behind because of the amount of debris. They worked on Sunday and caught up their route, so they was able to get 2 collections. Some areas, again, it wasn't a perfect thing. A lot of communication issues and employee issues, but they did complete it. Pelican bought in spare trucks during those 2 weeks. For 2 weeks they did that, working on Sunday. Some days they had as many as 22 trucks working, and the trucks that they bought in came from their Mississippi location and other areas that wasn't damaged by the storm, and they came in and do some work. And on Monday, September 26th, Pelican advised that they was expected to be on regular scheduled route, and as of today, they have kept up with their regular route. Again, we get a few missed collections here and there. We handle them as they come in. The issues that Pelican had, they had problems getting employees back due to housing from storm damages and transportation, fuel, trying to get the employees back in. Pelican tried everything they could with the employees to get as many back in. They offered generators. They fed them 3 times a day to make sure that they had meals. Even tried offering temporary housing when they could to do that. The issue that came up with a lot of the delays was that residents were going right behind them, filling it up with storm debris after they got their collection, and filling up with storm debris and making it heavy. Residents was also confronting the garbage truck workers, demanding that they pick up all their debris in front of the house, and it just slowed down the process. So those was the issues. But just on Pelican, as of Tuesday, September 28th, yesterday afternoon, they collected 7,000 tons of household garbage throughout Terrebonne Parish, with the mind-boggling is 14 million pounds of garbage, household garbage was picked up. In that same time frame for the last 2 years, the average is 3,800 tons, or 7.85 million. So they doubled what they normally pick up in that same time frame. I think they did a great job under the circumstances they had with the employees and everything. But once they got them in, they started working. The transfer station, we sustained some damage, but we was able to continue working. So right now, our transfer stations and scaled to accommodate the commercial and residential household garbage. We open at 6:30 and closing at last vehicle in at 4:30. And we doing it last vehicle at 4:30. Some of them takes an hour and a half to unload. So we just shut it down at 4:30, last vehicle in. And we were open Monday through Sunday those times, but this Sunday we're going to start working 6:30 to 3 on Sunday. Pelican is not going to need our scale house on that day or the transfer station, because they're going to be completed. The only thing they're going to be doing on those days is picking up the black bags throughout the parish that our contractors are not allowed to pick up per FEMA regulations. The residents have been bringing in stuff to our 3 residential drop-off sites, which is Crochettville and Montague, and Isla Cuba and Shreva, and Ashland and Grand Caille. So far, the residents themselves has brought in 121 tons of mixed debris, and I'm sorry, of vegetation debris of trees and all 121 tons. Of mixed debris, they brought in 2,822 tons, and the commercial mixed debris has brought in 5,378 tons. So we've been really busy at the transfer station. Sometimes our lines are backed up all the way to Grand Caillou Road. One of the contract laborers companies told me, they said they was happy to be at our place because at the other places there was 3-hour waits and mile-long lines. So we're making progress there. That's my report on the garbage collection. Debris removal. On August 27th, emergency pre-position contractors, Thompson Consulting Services, our monitoring contractor, and DRC, our debris collection contractor, was given notice to activate due to Terrebonne Parish was anticipating immediate impact of Hurricane Ida. On August 29th, the DRC arrived with over 70 crews for their 72-hour push. Those crews came in and cleaned all the roads that law enforcement, fire department hadn't got to, that they cleaned and pushed the stuff out the way. And then on September 3rd, DRC started their debris pickup in areas that had underground utilities because we was trying to stay out of the utility company's way. We're still doing that today. Some of the areas we're not in yet because we're waiting for some of the utility companies to get up. We have the parish divided into 12 zones, which consists of 83 subzones in that area. As of today, DRC has completed 42 first passes of vegetation and mixed debris. As of today, 37 subzones have the crews are working in for the first pass, and we have 4 zones that we haven't got into yet in the lower bay areas where there's still crews working. We went out like to Shrimpers Row, stuff like that. The line crew, we talked to them, and they're like, if y'all just give us a few days, y'all get in here after we in here, so we're not all trying to fight for the 1-lane road. And so we're doing that, but we are as of today, they have picked up 674,167 cubic yards of debris, 12,140 loads. DRC is averaging about 35,000 cubic yards a day. Just for a comparison, for those numbers, Governor Edwards yesterday announced at his press conference that the state had picked up right at 1 million cubic yards on state roads, on all state roads for Hurricane Ida, and we've picked up 674,000. And just for another one, NOLA did a press release saying that they had 74,000 cubic yards picked up with their estimated 200,000 total that needed to be picked up. And I'm just giving you those numbers just to show you that this crew DRC is out there really working. There's 60 plus trucks working. They have gave it extended 45 days. It expires October 10th for 100%. After that, we go to 90-10. Mr. Navy's question about bringing in extra contractors. Our pre-position contractors with DRC, we get anybody else in, we're going to have issues because they're not going to want the prices that DRC pays. We send them to DRC, but they have 60 plus trucks. The other thing that I didn't mention is that the state probably has about 30 trucks working the parish, of the big trucks working the state roads picking up debris. So we are constantly fighting for the roadways with the public, with the lights out, the traffic and everything else. The The issue is we're getting a lot of calls about we skipping piles. We're not doing the piles, but FEMA gives a guideline of how the debris should be stored stacked at the curbside, and we have FEMA people, Corps engineer people, as following the trucks to make sure they are doing the stuff correctly. If we don't follow the protocol that FEMA puts out there, we have a chance of losing funding. I can tell you right now, we're probably pushing $6 million plus in our debris collection. And if we don't follow this, we have a chance of losing everything. So we follow the FEMA guidelines when it comes to pre-positioned contracts. That was our first step. We did the evaluation. We got them in. Through administration, recommend to administration, came to y'all approved it, and we have our debris contractors. So we did the first step right. Now we're following their call on here. Our monitoring firm is very educated on the proper ways of picking up debris, and they are constantly advising the new rules and everything that FEMA comes out with. I talk about the black bags only because that's a big complaint. The debris truck came by and didn't pick up all my bags I had out there. FEMA at yesterday's conference call with GOSEP, Jim Richard, the GOSEP director for Category A debris, voiced his opinion very strongly to FEMA that he thought that it was nonsense, that in the 21st century you should be picking up the bags. FEMA responded back with, this is the way the rules are written, and this is the way y'all going to follow them if y'all want reimbursement. So we are doing it. We knew about the black bags a long time ago. We had a line item put into Pelican's contract. They had started picking up the black bags. I'm also having my grapple trucks, when we don't have anything for them specifically to do, we have them pick up the black bags to try to help get them off the street. I think that's about it. What I have for us reporting. Any questions?
Mr. Navy.
Okay. Yes, no, my comment was like that. The reason why, because I know that Biden did that, approved the 30-day, 45 days reimbursement, 100%. I know you're overwhelmed. Okay, I know the position that you're in, calls you're getting. I hope you're not offended that I call you so much. Okay,
No.
So at the end of the day, my thing was, trying to help you to see if that would be conducive for you to get another contract in to help you, because I know you're overwhelmed.
Yes,
and you're doing a terrific job with the resources that you're being given. I just think that I wish that you would have more resources that really help, because it's a long process with this, and I know it's going to take some time.
The first pass is expected to be completed early next week and started on our second pass. Look, this is going to go on probably a year or more, because as we're making the passes, people are pushing the stuff out, and these crews that we have right now, 60 plus crews working, 60 plus trucks, they are eventually going to start drilling because the money's not there. Right now, everybody wants to come in here because there's no other storm hit anywhere major. If we had a major storm, we'd be fighting to try to get contractors in here. But right now, everybody's flocked here. I'll be honest with you, it's the same thing with the FEMA and all the other ones. They're all here, they're all concentrated in this area because they don't have no other work anywhere.
Right, and that's why I was saying it, because I know, we only have one clay knocking, all right? So I'm just simply saying I thought that would have been a good, addition if it could have happened. But if it can't happen, I understand from the financial aspect of it. Thank you.
Mr. Trosclair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Clay, first off, I see David stepped out, but I want to really let administration know that I really appreciate the hard work that all y'all and y'all department people have done. I've actually been to the Ashley dump several times, and dropping off debris and dumping debris. And I witnessed the lines over there, so I know those guys working some long, hard hours trying to get these trucks in and out of there, trucks and trailers. And a lot of those people with trailers don't have a clue what they're doing when they get in there, so it just delays everything. But what really amazed me is the fact, the numbers you gave out, that we've collected over 600,000 cubic yards of debris in the same time span that the governor says that the state, not just Terrebonne Parish, if I understood you right, but all the state roads that are affected by the storm has only collected 1 million cubic yards. So we nearly 2/3 of what they did just in this Terrebonne Parish, and we still have many hundred thousands of yards of debris left to pick up. So these guys, it doesn't look like they're doing a whole lot, but when you see the numbers, when you drive in the streets, it's hard to see it, because streets I drive on, you don't see the trucks come and go, and you don't see a big difference. There's just so much of it out there. So people, people need to realize that they are working and they are putting in long days and they're not stopping. And it's just the massive amount of debris and trash. It's astronomical. It's overwhelming for the average person to even comprehend it. So I think y'all doing a great job, and would like to see it quicker. Every one of us would. I don't like that pile in my yard either, but it's still there. Okay, I didn't get the first pick, and I ain't got the second pick yet. So, but anyway, just keep it up, and I know you guys are doing the best you can with what you got. Thanks.
Just one other thing to add to that is deceiving is that when you ride, most of us, when we're doing our riding, we're riding on state roads, and we're not allowed to pick up on state roads. The state is picking that up. So you're seeing a lot of piles on the state roads, and that's a very thing that a lot of people don't understand, is that if it's on the state road, they're responsible for all the stuff on the state roads. At one time, at some point, the state's going to come to us and say, we finished. It's all y'all's, and once they do that, then we'll be able to pick up on it, but we have to wait on them. So that is another thing that makes it look bad that we're not doing much, but it's we're tied with just doing parish roads.
And this is an exact reason why it's important that we as the council be able to get this update from you guys, because I've had some people that live on 311. Why my debris is not being picked up? They picked it up right down the street. But they passed over my house. At least now I can explain to them that's going to be coming as part of a state contract. Ms. Domingue?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Clay. And to the people of Terrebonne Parish, I think this is the most important time that we practice a little empathy, because many of your employees lost their homes, or their homes were damaged, and they had to go to work. And so while they're being yelled at and screamed at, they still in the back of their mind are thinking of their families. So we need to take that into consideration, that this is not just affecting us, it's affecting everyone. I have several questions, though. First of all, if the piles are not separated, and so everything is just in one pile, will DRC pick that up?
Yes, but the way they work, and they're assigned whatever many trucks the contractor assigns to a zone, they cannot leave that zone until they finish their first pass. The first thing they pick up is vegetation. By FEMA guidelines, we have to reduce the vegetation by 50%. Two ways of doing it: grinding it or burning it. We have no way to burn it in Terrebonne Parish because you got to be 1,000 feet away from businesses and homes, and it's hard to find any property in Terrebonne Parish that you can follow that. Then once you get that, you start burning. You have if they're even remotely close, complaining. So we are grinding, and so they're grinding everything. So if the piles, so what they do, they go through the neighborhoods and they pick up what they call a clean pile of vegetation, and they try to do all the vegetation first. And once they get that, then they come back and pick up the debris piles. Again, are they perfect? No, they come in and they do in these streets, and A lot of time, did I get this one? Nope, I missed this house or whatever, or the side streets. But when y'all call in, or the general public calls into my office, we're able to contact the contractor and say, hey, what's going on there? Matter of fact, in your neighborhood, your district today, we had one on Maple Street. The lady felt that they were skipping her house. We called them up. They looked into it, and they found that they did skip a couple of houses, and they will be back in there tomorrow morning to take care of those on the first pass. But like Mr. Navy said, I'm only one person, and I rely on the calls that come in. I take all the calls. I take the good calls, and I take the ugly calls. The ugly calls, I want them to come to me, not to my employees, because they are only the messengers that get the information from me.
And they're doing what they were instructed
And
to do.
I can honestly say, for all the councilmen and administration here, it's been unbelievably good to work, because I haven't had anybody call and say, it's all been informational calls, and it's making my job a lot easier, because the ones that are not the nice calls are the ones coming in from the general public. That's me, I want my stuff done now calls. But that is very few. For a large amount, the general public has been very understanding.
And I'm with Mr. Trosclair. I still haven't had a first pass either, but I'm okay with that. You do me last. I'm okay. It's every time people call, it's I like to empathize with them and say, look, I understand, because half of my house is on the side of the road as well. You mentioned too about the black bags. So clarify, would FEMA prefer us to just put the insulation and those items directly on the side of the road, or do they want? That's the part that really is confusing for me.
And that's what's mind-boggling to all of us too. If you take that insulation, I'm gonna tell you, I followed a truck the other day going through the tunnel with the insulation in the tunnel, and the vacuum just sucked everything out there, and we just cleaned the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
So
the wind's going to blow, and it's going to blow down the street.
You put it in the black bags. We have a process. It's a little slower, but we're getting them picked up. Pelican, of course, the storm affected the whole parish, so Pelican is finally able to start dedicating 1 or 2 trucks. On the weekends, they are bringing in trucks from out of parish and picking up black bags. So we ought to see all the bags starting to move off the street, along with my grapple trucks picking up bags. So we should see them a lot. I totally agree with you. Even GOSEP agrees with you that it doesn't make any sense, but we have to follow the guidelines.
2 more. Whenever they were making the first pass of clearing all the streets, that was DRC doing that, or that was the parish doing that. If a tree was pushed, or debris was pushed, and it caused destruction or damage to someone's property, where would they report that to?
To risk management, and it'd be up to them to decide if who it is. But
okay. And then one more. So Pelican, are they only picking up what's in the cans right now and not the bags? So let's say I have an overflow of garbage. Are they only picking up what's in the can and not the bags? Or
they should be picking. We're back on regular, so they should be picking up. The only thing we asking the residents to do is to take their garbage and move it away from their debris pile and put their garbage bags away from there. Because if you put it next to your debris pile, they're going to consider it as being part of your debris. So if they just move it to the side, and if they don't pick it up, you call my office. But I do. But they just need to call my office. But we have some, our phone lines are down. I have some temporary numbers to give out to call my office. So.
All right. And once again, I appreciate you, Clay. You're doing a great job with the tools that you've been given. And so, just keep it up. Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Yes, I have a few myself, but it seemed like Ms. Domain took and like always, we talk and have a good relationship. And when I ask you a question, it's only to the public that they have an opportunity to say. was garbage, trash, and stone debris. And then you kind of covered that with the black bags separating and things like that. And so we covered that part, but then if you have anything more to say in reference to what you do for South Dakota government, Pelican, and the storm debris collection, anything you want to add on to that?
No, I mean, I'm just the director of solid waste, and these are contractors that fall under my scope, and they answer to me, and I administrate their contracts and make sure that they're doing their contracts. Yes, I'm spread thin, but I mean, I accept the challenge and I enjoy it, and I enjoy helping the public. But I think our contractors have stepped up to the plate. Pelican, being local, their heart was into this, and they have really did some good work for us.
Okay, and you mentioned like a precondition contractor. These contractors are actually called in prior to, or they already set up, because it goes back to a previous question. And a lot of times, people that are local, not just the rubbish or whatever, there are other things that may be similar, but handled differently. You know what I mean? So there are some local people having certain things about this. And so, could you explain a little bit more about the pre-contracts?
Well, what it is, we accept their prices when we ratify their contract, and we send whenever someone calls in and says that they want to pick up debris, we send them to DRC, give them their contact information, and if DRC wants to hire them as a contractor, they have to accept DRC's prices. But I can tell you, most times the locals don't want to work for DRC because the prices are low. But that's what we negotiated in our contract for them to pick up debris at those prices, and then it funnels down to DRC on their prices. We can't control what DRC pays their subcontractors.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because it's kind of understandable to do that, because if you're large enough, you can go give them more discount price, and then the people that are local, they have to charge a bit more because they don't have the ability. I want to say to the public also, while you're here, is the fact that you may have some trash today and you pass down 3-4 days later, a week later. This is a constant in the cleaning of the properties. Some people don't put it all out at the same time. It's a piece by piece deal. So I say to assist you and for the public to know that this is an ongoing process. We said previously, it may take a year or over. To perhaps to the rest of the people out there in support of you, there are some circumstances that are federal guidelines that FEMA have you to follow. And I'm sure a lot of people that's out there don't agree with some of the guidelines that they have to go through. So your information has been great in reference to that. One more thing. I get a lot of calls, too. I get a lot of calls. So, you said there's some numbers that you're going to give, and they're going to be publicized. And if you can get through our website and stuff like that to publish those numbers, because most oftentimes you call any agency, the phone is busy. And it's if they can't get that agency or that department, they're going to call someone up here.
Right.
So we want to actually get as much information out there as possible. That was another situation finally. That was another situation where the storm collectors, that collects the storm rubbish, they came to a site and they left, and they didn't come back. And I was trying to explain try to find an answer, because at that site, they need to clear the rubbish off the person's property, but then there's a tree there. But the company left, and there have been a couple of instances whereas they left and did not come back to that starting point. And is there something to do with that route?
And that's the Smith Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we was notified of it, and we gave it to them, and they went back to that location. Should have taken care of it. I didn't get a report if they didn't, but I would assume that I got another call if they didn't take care of it.
I was going to pass when I leave.
Yeah,
well, I thank you, though.
But yeah.
Oh, great job, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay, very much, and a shout out to Pelican, local company, all hands on deck. I called the general manager, and he's driving a truck, picking up garbage while I called him. So they did a great job. Thank you, Clay.
All right. And do you want these numbers are pasted been put on the emergency thing and everything, but I have the numbers here if y'all want to put them if y'all need them to pass them out. We're working off of FirstNet phones, cell phones, because our system's down. IT says we should have our phones back up.
Now there are like 4 or 5 phone numbers.
Yes.
I'm always giving the person the top phone number. Am I
good.
like calling like some individual who gets all the calls?
No.
It rotates? Good.
Well, it's not on rotation. The phones are put in a pool, and they grab them in the morning, and whatever one they grab. But the 226-4060, that's the last one they try to grab. That's the one they call all the time.
Thank you very much. And before we go to item 1, let's go ahead and we have Miss Teresa Robichaux and Miss Rhonda Rogers here with the Registrar of Voters and our clerk. If y'all could come and give us an update on the upcoming elections.
Okay, I'm going to give the information that the clerk's office handles, which is Election Day, commissioners, and official custodian of the voting machine. So in case you didn't know, we have an election November 13th, originally set for October 6th, and it was moved back to November 13th. And then we have the general election on December 11th. Ms. Rogers will explain what's on the ballot for those 2 dates, since she deals with the ballots. Currently, Terrebonne Parish has 49 polling locations, and that houses 77 precincts. At this time, 24 of those locations are unusable due to the hurricane, and that's resulting in 35 displaced precincts, which is almost half. Okay, so just like Rhonda's office, we've been scrambling to find different locations, and as all of you know, a lot of the locations being used normally for voting now is being used to house the displaced residents of the parish. 5 of the locations that we used to use are being utilized by the Red Cross. Okay, and I've been in touch with Jennifer, who's the director. She's notified us that if they should have to occupy another building, she will let us know in case it's being used as a precinct. But we're not expecting them to need any more buildings. Yesterday was our deadline to commit to our relocating of the precincts with the Secretary of State's office, but that was not possible because every day we learn about a precinct that we thought was usable, and we find out that now it's not. And I think a lot of it has to do with all the rain we've been getting. We're seeing more and more damage to some of those buildings, so we're still scrambling to find locations. Now, a lot of those buildings that appear unusable, we're finding out are usable. Some of those that we thought were not damaged have turned out to be damaged. So our problem is, and Ms. Rhonda will talk about the deadlines, we have a deadline to meet so that we know where those precincts will be. We can't take the chance of moving a precinct into a building that we're promised will be fixed by November 13th, because if it's not, then we don't have a place for those precincts. So it's a juggling act, and we've been juggling now for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but we're getting it done. We are down to our last 3 precincts looking for a place. I will say that we met last week, Rhonda and I, along with President Dove, Kyle Ordon, Secretary of State, Ms. Sherry Hatsky, who is the Commissioner of Elections, and Chris Pulaski from the parish were there. They are going to help us, and they have been helping us with relocating these precincts. They are going to provide tents in case we can't, and we already know that we'll need at least 4 tents right now, maybe more. These tents are 100 feet by 40. They can house quite a few of our precincts, and they will be in strategic locations where most of the precincts that or the locations that were damaged. We're trying to set up the tents close to where these precincts are so that the voters don't have to drive more than 1 or 2 miles from where they normally vote. They will also provide signs throughout the parish at intersections that are strategic. These signs will have toll-free numbers so that the voters can call to find out where their precinct is now located. And so we're hoping that will help, as well as getting messages out on, I know, my website at the clerk's office, and my Facebook page, and through social media. We're going to try to get the word out of these polling location changes. As far as commissioners, we had a lot of commissioners who were displaced because of the hurricane. We have nearly 500 commissioners in Terrebonne Parish. We have 268 as of this afternoon who have confirmed that they can and will be available to help. Many of them have volunteered to work in other areas of the parish that they don't normally work at. So that gives us 1 commissioner in charge with 2 commissioners for each precinct, and we have about 30 to spare. So some commissioners can work more than 1 precinct if they're in the same building, and so that also helps us. So I think with commissioners, we will be okay. So we're not too concerned, not as much as we are about finding polling places for these damaged buildings. When we met with the Secretary of State, I believe Kyle said that they expected statewide turnout was 10 to 15% for this election. Here, I personally think it will be a little less. We just have so many people who are displaced, and right now, an election is just not on their mind. This election has 4 constitutional amendments and a couple of props for fire protection districts and rec districts. So we're working, and I say 24/7. I mean, every day we're getting more and more feedback as to the buildings that we thought we could use that we can't, and vice versa. So we're juggling that. We hope, I think within the next day or 2, to solidify our precincts, because as Ms. Rogers will speak about, she has deadlines to meet, and we have to have all of these in place. I will also have my office employees stationed at all the precincts that are changed with signs, and they'll give directions to where the new precincts will be for these people who have displaced precincts. And of course, like I said, we have social media, the newspaper, HTV. I think within the next a week, no, I'm just saying a week. Hopefully within a week, she'll have everything she needs in place for her early voting and so on. I think within the next couple of days, we should have everything solidified unless we get some more changes. But right now, 4 or 5 tents throughout the parish. I think we're doing all we can to still make it convenient for the voters so they don't have to go too far from their normal precincts. The good news is it will probably be a very low turnout, so that will help a little bit. All right, so that's pretty much my report.
And
I'm
if
sorry.
it's okay, maybe Ms. Rhonda can give her update, and then if we have questions for
Sure.
either one of you guys, because she may answer some questions that we might have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa.
Thank y'all for having us. I'm Rhonda Rogers, Registrar of Voters. And as Ms. Robichaud mentioned, the elections were pushed back. So October 9th is now November 13th. And we're also going to have a December 11th general election. On November 13th, on the ballot will be 4 constitutional amendments, Rec 3A prop, and a Bayou Cane fire prop. The big deadlines we want to talk about, especially to our voters, is our registration deadline. You may have moved. You may have a new address. You may want to change your party. You may want to change your name. Those are the things that will affect you when you go to vote on November 13th. So that first deadline is October 13th. So any changes to your registration in order to vote in November on the November 13th election need to be done by October 13th if you come in person to my office or you mail me your change. If you do it online on the Go Vote app or on the portal, it's October 23rd. Those deadlines are hard deadlines, so we always push that information. And of course, I will continue pushing that information out through social media as well. Early voting. There will be no changes to early voting. My office will conduct early voting. We'll start on a Saturday of October 30th, and we'll finish on Saturday, November 6th. Our hours of early voting are 8:30 to 6. So we will do that. You can park just where you used to park on the Gabash Street side, and you will enter through my office. My office is in good condition, and we're able to conduct early voting out of it. So we'll be good with that. I am encouraging our voters to utilize early voting, especially now. If you have the means to get to our office and vote with all the displaced precincts, this may be more convenient for you. Mail ballots. They were supposed to be mailed on September 7th. That was the plan. I still have them in my office. I am glad I did not mail them before that. I plan to mail them next week. I have worked with the Postal Service. They are aware that the ballots will be going out. When I spoke to the lady at the Postal Service, she mentioned that she is asking residents who don't have a home on their property to please put a mailbox on their property. Their usual rules were not to put mail in vacant boxes, but in emergency situations, they will do that. So that is one thing we can get out to the public as well, and it may also help with the long lines at the post office. So I am going to mail our ballots out next week, so we'll start seeing that happen. Any of the emergency polling locations that we do make, that Ms. Robichaud makes, I have to notify the voters. So that I'm waiting on those things to be finalized, and every voter will get a letter saying where their polling location, their emergency location will be. If they don't receive the letter, they can use the Go Vote app. That will be updated so that they can use that information, and it will be right there in the palm of their hands. We'll push the information out on social media, HTV, and things like that as well. The December 11th election should be a little smaller election. It is not a parish-wide election. Currently, there's Fire 7 prop in the North Terrebonne Rec District. That's the two things. That's about 55 precincts on that ballot. Other than that, I'm the voice of the voters, so I'm trying to make sure they have the information they need. And of course, they can always call my office, and we're there to help them, 873-6533, if they need to get in touch with us. So.
Now, if we move a precinct for the November election, that will stay the same precinct for the December election, correct?
Correct. According to Secretary of State, we keep them the same
even
to avoid
if the
confusion.
regular precinct is
correct.
Mr. Harding, you have a question?
They can early vote. I did hear that we do have the buses running, so they definitely can come early vote in my office, and I really do encourage that. However, when we do make the emergency polling place changes, we're hoping that it's in a vicinity that's good for them as well. So they still can vote on election day, because some people prefer to do that. So, but I do encourage them to early vote. If they want to request a mail ballot and they have a address where they can receive mail, they are temporarily away from their residence, and they would qualify. So they can call my office, and we can help them with that. I encourage your Oklahoma friend to make sure she gets a mail ballot. So that would be her best option, and she can do that all online. She can even request the ballot online, and it's easy. If she gets stuck along the way, call our office, and we'll walk her through it. It's not a problem.
Mr. Michel.
Thank you. On On the mail-in ballots that have a October 13th deadline, is that a postmark, or do you have to receive it?
The registration, the voter registration, October 13th deadline is a postmark.
It's a postmark.
If it's mailed to me, we look at the postmark date.
So if the postmark is October 13th and you get it in February, that should be
good. If I don't have it.
I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, seeing no more. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank y'all so much.
Motion to go back in regular order by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Item 1, informational update regarding Hurricane Ida and COVID-19 stats by Mr. Earl Hughes, Director of the Terrebonne Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Earl Hughes, Director of Terrebonne Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, 101 Government Street in Gray. Well, it's been 34 days since our office has been activated. We spent 21 days fully activated beginning August 28th. Before I give my report, I'd just like to express my thanks to all the parish departments, all the agencies in the parish, including the Sheriff's Office, Acadian Ambulance, just many, many, many agencies in this parish that have put forth the effort to bring us back and to get recovery going within this parish. I will say this, that one of the most difficult aspects of this job is to do the evacuation and the sheltering. And I got to give my compliments to Kelly Cunningham with Housing and Human Services and her group over there. They had 14 hours to evacuate 300-something people, beginning Friday before the storm at 3 o'clock. And she started moving people out at about 6 o'clock Saturday morning. We evacuated over 300 people to Monroe. Compliments to the state of Oklahoma for their shelter in a box group who came in there and ran those shelters for us, along with Kelly and him's group at Housing and Human Services. And our people stayed up there for 2 weeks. And we're taken care of by Ouachita Parish and those from Oklahoma that came to assist us to run those shelters. Thankfully, we were able to bring them back closer to home. We brought them to St. Mary Parish. We evacuated over 300 people. About 250 came back on our buses back to St. Mary Parish. The others evidently found a ride back with family members or friends. And thanks to St. Mary Parish for offering up their services and their buildings as shelters for us, for our evacuees to get closer to home until we could establish what buildings could be used here. Since that time, we have 154 evacuees in shelters right now. They're in 3 shelters at the Houma Municipal Auditorium, the Dumas Auditorium, and Oakshire Gym. Thanks to the Red Cross, they have stepped in to run those shelters and any other shelters that we would deem necessary to be open here in the parish, and they're doing a great job, and we appreciate the help that they've done. Many, many agencies and groups have came down to Terrebonne Parish to help us recover. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been brought into the parish by people we probably never will ever meet to help us out and to recover. And it's good to see the nation. I mean, we had donations from all over the country come in here to assist us in our area. And it's just not Terrebonne, it's Lafourche and the other parishes that were affected. But thanks to all those people throughout this whole nation who has come down here and taken care of our residents and those that are in need. And we're in debt to those people for helping us. And I hope that if another country, another state, another county, or another parish needs our assistance, that we as people step up and do the same thing that they've done for us. So, we've been activated for 34 days. A lot has happened. We were impacted on a storm with landfall on August 29th. Since that day, we operated 21 days, 24 hours a day at our office trying to recover this parish. The day after the storm, we started off by saying it's going to be baby steps. and that's what we took. We took baby steps for a few days, and then we started taking larger steps and to bring us to where we are today. A lot has happened in the last 34 days throughout this parish, especially getting the utilities back up and running, the electrical service, sewer service, the water service. So electrical, we're about 99% with all the electric companies, including Sleeka, Entergy, and the parish utilities. I got to give it to Ernest. I think Ernest had the city utilities back up within 11 days. I mean, that's just kind of unbelievable, but they did an excellent job with that within the city. Mike Sobert and his group at Consolidated Waterworks are at about 99% right now of connections. And most, just like the utility companies, the electrical companies, and the water companies, they're at 99% because those that are left have too much damage to their homes to connect the water or connect the electricity. So as those homes get repaired and they get inspected and they're allowed, they'll get their electricity on that aspect. At the current time, we have 6 pods still open for the parish. Those pods include South Terrebonne, H's Corner, which is in Pointe-aux-Chenes, Ward 7 down in Chauvin, Grand Caillou Fire Department, Bayou Dularge Fire Department, and there's one other that I can't remember right now, Ward 7, Montague. That one's shut down at the recreation. So I can't remember the name of it right now. Let's see, I got it on a list here. South Terrebonne, H's Corner, Ward 7, Grand Caillou, and Dularge. So there's 5 locations. So those sites have given out thousands of bags of ice, MREs, tarps, and water throughout this whole event. As the electricity comes back on and as the water gets approved, that it's no longer on the boil water advisory, which is mostly all the areas north or west of the Intercoastal, those pods were closed down due to the fact that the grocery stores are open and the other places are open where they can get these supplies. At the present time, looking at what's been given out at South Terrebonne, H's Corner, and Dularge Fire Department, the most of the commodities that are being given out at this time is ice, because everybody still needs ice. So what we've decided to do, we will be closing those pods tomorrow at close of business. Well, may not be tomorrow. We're waiting on the ice boxes to come in. We're going to have some ice boxes come in. They're going to be serviced twice a day by a company to make sure they're loaded. And it'll be a self-serve deal where you get your own ice. And a pallet of water will be left at each one of those ice boxes so people can get water as long as it's necessary. We're going to keep the Ward 7 and the Grand Caillou pod open, fully serviced. We're getting over 300 cars a day at those 2 sites. So they're still very active, and I'm sure Councilman Guidry could vouch for that. There's lots of people going in and out of those places. So that's where we are on the pods. Dean Swest has taken over our donations and volunteer management. So anything that comes in truckload-wise from out of state, somewhere else, if somebody wants to donate something, it's going to the Civic Center, and then he's rerouting it back out to the community. Most of the bayous have I call it a donation store. It's a little place that's set up where people can walk in and grab any items that they may need, like diapers and hygiene products. So what Dean is doing is making sure that items that we get pushed down to those areas that may need that. If any other group calls and says, hey, I need some cleaning supplies, or I need this or that, church group or whatever, Dean is managing, making sure that those people get the supplies that they need. At the present time, Red Cross and Salvation Army is doing the majority of the cooking for the bayou areas in the parish. At the present time, they're doing about 4,000 meals a day for the parish. It's kind of slowed down a little bit over the last week, and it's because the electricity is coming back. So as the electricity is coming back, people are cooking in their own homes and going to the grocery store and trying to cook their own food that they're used to. So we're seeing those meals come down. I did meet with Red Cross today, and I made sure that they're going to be here for the long term, because we're going to need food probably, for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And they said they will be here as long as we need them to continue to feed our residents in this parish. Other than that, we have my report here. So far, under mass care, like I said, Red Cross is doing all the sheltering. We're in the process of trying to secure the West Homer gym, because we're having more people that want to come to the shelter. Along with that, you have been contacted by Chris Pulaski from our planning and zoning department, who's taken over the housing aspect of the storm, and asked where would you like a base camp. So we're in the process of getting those base camps established. Hopefully we have a meeting tomorrow. We'll find out what day those base camps will be set up in those areas that have requested those. Those base camps will be in each district that requested them. It allows people to stay in their local area instead of having to come all the way to Homer for a shelter. We're working with the school board and DCFS to ensure that the children in the shelters are getting transportation to school as school resumes. And like I said, we got about 157 people in those 3 shelters. We're continuing to do vaccines and COVID vaccines and COVID testing in different areas of the parish. We publish those out as best we can on our websites and our Facebook pages. Debris pickup, I know Clay kind of went over this, but I think they're up close to 700,000 cubic yards. So that number is amazing compared to other parishes that are picking up debris. So they're doing a good job. It's just a slow process. I get a lot of phone calls of when my debris is going to be picked up, and I'm kind of like you guys. I tell them when mine's being picked up, because I still have debris in my front yard. So they're going to get to it. It's just going to take a little time to do that. Chris is going to talk a little more. I'm going to see if I can turn the microphone over to him after I'm finished my report, so he can give y'all some information on the GOSEP temporary sheltering housing is what they're calling it, and also the direct housing from FEMA. We've been in constant contact with those, with FEMA and GOSEP. Tony Robinson was in our office this afternoon. He's the administrator for FEMA Region 6. He's, all in, on board, trying to get us what we need as quickly as possible. But I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's a slow process, guys, to get direct housing. And that's why GOSEP stepped up and is going to come in with some trailers that we have asked you guys to turn in some names for us, so that it'll be an intermediary between the direct housing that FEMA's going to come in with and take care of. So, we're constantly putting out stuff daily on Facebook. We have somebody from IT that's staying in our office. Any new information that comes in, they're pushing that out as soon as we get it, so the public can get that information. I do notice that the news media is monitoring our Facebook page, so they're pulling everything off our Facebook pages and putting it in the media, which is a good way for them to get information quickly. Doing that. Once again, we still have the National Guard here, a very big help for us throughout this whole event since day one, the day after the storm. Well, actually, they were in our office before the storm even made landfall. But they've been a big help working with the pods, doing work for Public Works. At one time, we had over 600 National Guard members in Terrebonne Parish alone working for our parish and helping us restore it. So if you see them guys around, please tell them thank you. They're away from their families just like everybody else is, to be here and to help us recover. So they're having sacrifices also, to assist us. So please tell them thank you if you see those National Guard guys around. FEMA's been out with their disaster service assistance services. They've been in the libraries that are open and assisting residents to get registered on disasterassistance.gov. And then beginning tomorrow or the next day, they're going to start canvassing neighborhoods. So they're going to go door to door and make sure that people know how to register, and they can register them with their electronic devices at the door by their iPads. Make sure that the residents are registered for disaster assistance. One thing I want to stress is before anyone can get any assistance, whether it's with FEMA or GOSEP, they have to be registered through disasterassistance.gov. So even if you have insurance and you think you're covered, go ahead and still register, because if you fall short, there may be some opportunity for you to have some other way to help take up your shortfalls if you're registered with disasterassistance.gov. Recently we were at the United Home and Nation and on Monarch Drive, the food bank, Grand Caillou Middle School, helping out people. They opened up a disaster recovery center, which is at the Civic Center. This is a place where the people can go if they have registered and they've been denied, or they need some more assistance, or they need to add something to their application. They can go to the disaster recovery center at the Civic Center, and they will help them do that. So just today, they had about 118 people go through that disaster recovery center. Since it's been open a little over a week, they had about 700 people go through that center. So total, we got 39,644 people that are registered in Terrebonne Parish. I like to say that that's probably households, because if you're married, you both can't file for disaster assistance. Only one person in the household can file, so that's about 39,000. That's a little close to what we have as far as, the last census. It's about 42 or 43,000 households in the parish. Now, what that doesn't include, though, when I say households from the census, it doesn't include those living in apartment complexes. So, and as you all know, we've had a lot of people evicted from the apartment complexes, especially the larger ones in the parish. They need to apply for disaster assistance also, because they can get some rental assistance from FEMA. Blue roofs, 2,500 people requested a blue roof. They assessed about 2,000 of those requests. They've put up about 1,300 blue roofs so far, and they got about 460 work orders at the contractor right now. So they're getting the blue roofs up little by little, but as you'll see them across town putting up blue roofs. SBA came in and opened up a center at the East Houma Library. They're also at the Civic Center. So far, 284. This is at September 24th, 5 days ago. 284 applications, about $16 million in loans have been approved through SBA under the home applications. There was only one business loan application approved for about $7,000, and then there's an EIDL application approval, which was about $42,000. So in total, about $16,374,000 through SBA loans have been provided here in Terrebonne Parish. The only other thing I'd like to report on is some numbers from FEMA on what they have already kind of expounded in Terrebonne Parish to kind of give you an idea. Under individual housing program, that amount is total at the present time $64 million. Okay, so that's a individual housing program. They give assistance depending on which you can qualify for. They're also doing housing assistance eligibility. They are also issuing out repair money. At the present time, they're doing rental assistance money, and also other special needs monies have also been issued out to residents of the parish. Probably closer to a total of about $80 million so far just in Terrebonne Parish. And it's going to increase on a daily basis as the FEMA inspectors go out, do their inspections on the houses that are damaged and that people aren't living in or they're uninhabitable. Those numbers will come up during the next few weeks. The state's going to do the Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That is a registration that is done by phone. That number is 888-524-3578. Once again, that's 888-524-3578. That will begin on October the 4th through the 9th, which is coming up next week. You asked why it takes so long for them to get the disaster supplemental nutritional program in place. They won't start that until the electricity's up and running and the grocery stores are open, because that's where you spend that, okay, in restaurants. They just approved you can use that for hot foods and prepared foods. So they wait till there's enough electricity and things that are open for that to be utilized. Other than that, I just want to remind people they can go to disasterassistance.gov. Once again, that's disasterassistance.gov to register for assistance through FEMA. You can also call an 800 number. That's 800-621-3362. 800-621-3362, or you can use their acronym. It's 1-800-621-FEMA. So before anybody can be eligible for anything, they have to go through the disasterassistance.gov. So I'd like to bring Chris up and have him speak.
Before we do that, is there anything you wanted to add, Mr. Dove, before Mr. Pulaski speaks?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While Earl's up here, I'd just like to thank Earl Hughes for running the Emergency Operations Center, department's head, David Rome, Clay Narcan, Earl Hughes, Ernie Brown, Mort Black, Angela Gidry, who purchasing did a wonderful job, and Mike Sobear with Waterworks, and all your fire departments worked with this government, and it was really something great to see. The utility companies, I just got off the phone with Joe Tickley, and he's 100% of utilities in Terrebonne Parish, and the city of Home has been 100%. Ernie Brown's done a wonderful job. Philip May with CEO with Entergy, they got on the step and picked up, and they are right at 100%. I think they might have a few things left to tie in. But you realize 30 days ago, we had a major hurricane, a Cat 4, which may become a Cat 5, and within 30 days we have utilities to Terrebonne Parish, water, and it's a concerted effort of a bunch of department heads, everyone coming together, and the levee board with their floodgates, they're repaired. They had some problems with a couple of them. They're back in place, and we're back and ready again. And the execution of everything through the EOC, through the administration, Chris Pulaski, and of course Clay Narcan, Dean Schwess, and Roddy LaRille got the groceries and the supplies out of the Civic Center, and did a wonderful job. Steve Ponville, Debbie Ortigo, and of course the manager of the parish, Mike Toops. And we really, everyone came together, including the council, and in 30 days we're on our road to recovery. Of course, we still have housing. I was running late. We were running late because we met with Tony Robinson, who is the regional administrator, Region 6 for FEMA, and Jim Wascom, and I think Chris Pulaski is going to give you a rundown on exactly what our meeting was about, where we're at. But the collaboration of all these people, the council, everyone. I mean, in 30 days, we've got people to rebuilding their lives. We still have a lot of rebuilding to go in Terrebonne Parish. Teresa Robichaud was here earlier. I called her, and I called David Drury. That's another one who really worked tireless getting these buildings back. And our big deal was to get Teresa. Last Tuesday, not this Tuesday, the Tuesday before, we had the courthouse open so people could go to the banks, borrow money. You can't borrow money if you can't file a mortgage. So it was just Candace, I'm not going to forget Candace, Julius Hebert and his staff, and just everyone, and I hope I didn't skip anyone, but it really, really came together, and this is the way, during a disaster, You come together. There's always room for improvements. And one other thing I'd like to bring out also is if you pass on Main Street, you can see a lot of bricks right by the Luminaire restaurant, right across from the Whitney. The owner, Daniel Bruce, has contracted Thompson Construction, and they should start removing those bricks tomorrow because that still makes it look. We still that finishes helping clean up downtown. But thanks to each and every one of my administration, this council, and fire departments had the trees cleared, unbelievable as fast as they could, and so from here, if there's anything learned from this, is we can work together in the disaster, and the success of Terrebonne Parish within 30 days, I think it's going to be unheard of. Even Joe Tickle told me with Sleek, he said he believes that's history to have the electricity back on a major Category 4 hurricane. And of course, the waterworks, Mike Sobair has really they hooked the water. They had the water running for everyone. And so with that, I want to thank everyone and thank y'all very much.
Chris, don't go away, Earl.
Thank you, and good to see you all again in one room. Before I get into the details, I too want to thank administration, President Dove, council, all you guys, your staff, my department, fellow department heads, certainly my staff, all of their staff as well. I mean, everybody works so well together. I want to thank all the folks at the EOC, all the first responders, all of the other groups and agencies that were there. And I also want to thank the people of Terrebonne Parish. I sit at a table with Mark Black, but we also sit with the folks that run the donations and the volunteers. So all the good that's happening is happening right across the table for me. And so the generosity that the people of Terrebonne Parish, and outside of the parish, of course, too, but I mean, the generosity that they showed donating time, materials, money, sweat, just getting out there helping their neighbors, it was just impressive to see. Not surprising, given where we live. That's just how we are. But I just got to bring that up. Also, before housing, I just want to touch on building permits. I mean, guys, we're running over 100 inspections a day. We're pushing like 250, close to 300 permits and inspections a week. And we're staying up with all that, with the pace of everything. We're working with the contractors, working with the homeowners, trying to make it as easy and efficient as possible. It is difficult to get online. We know that. I don't have internet at my house either. You can apply for a permit online like you always can at mypermitnow.org. But the easier ways to do it right here, there's a mobile app called My Government Online, so you can download that. Also, you can call the permit office. The permit office number is 985-873-6567. I mean, we're not in the permit office. Our space in Government Tower got some damage, so we're in a temporary office. But all the phones were transferred. Everything's, business as usual with that respect. Yes, sir. My Government Online. Yep. And all of that will continue to run even post-storm, the app and so forth. Permits are required, and the requirements for those permits are the same. Those haven't changed. The fees have been waived, not just for residential, but commercial as well. So if you have questions about permits, again, call the permit office at 873-6567. We got folks there, getting in early, staying late, out doing building inspections late. So we're trying to get the parish rebuilt as quickly as we can. So housing, like it was mentioned before, the first thing you have to do,
Chris,
is,
I think Councilwoman Doming has a question before you get into the FEMA stuff or not.
Sorry to interrupt you, Chris. Before we move on to what we really want to hear about is housing, could you maybe really quickly tell us and tell the public what exactly they need a permit for, as far as, a homeowner who...
Yeah. I mean, obviously, most of the permits that we're doing right now are electrical reworks. That's kind of where we're at in the phase. So if your meter was damaged, if your mast came down, the service lines got ripped out of the weatherhead, all that kind of stuff, you would need an electrical permit, and your licensed electrician would be the one to apply for and pull that permit. Now, the permit office, we can work with the homeowners as well, but we would need that electrician's information. But once you get the permit applied for, that's what then allows the inspector to go out and make sure that the reinstallation, that the work is done properly. Once they get that inspection, then boom, we call it in to the power company, and they have a tech go out and energize. But other typical permits we're seeing right now, re-roofing, fence replacement, certainly damages to the exterior of the home. If you have something that's more cosmetic, like if you're just replacing drywall or carpet, stuff like that that's more cosmetic, do you need a permit just for that? No, but chances are if you have that, you've got something else. How did the water get in? Well, probably through your roof. So, you would need it. And again, the permits are free. And it's just a good idea because, when you submit for reimbursement with your homeowner's insurance, they may ask for that information. So it's always good to have. And then certainly we want to make sure that permits, the inspections are important because we want to make sure that whatever gets built back correctly.
Does that also go into damage calculations for FEMA?
Yes, it does. I mean, when you talk about the number of permits, I mean, there may be some that we just don't have in our system, but sooner or later things catch up with each other. So it is a good idea from that standpoint as well.
I'm sorry, proceed.
Any other permit?
Steve?
Yes, Chris. I haven't got any calls, but I'm just wondering, have y'all experienced any inspection delays? Are we able to handle it in-house, or do we have outside inspectors helping out?
We haven't had any inspection delays. One we picked up late last week. We saw that there was a delay from the time the inspection was completed to where it got turned in to the utility company. So we addressed that. So we think we've resolved that one. I think it was just a sheer number. But we've got that caught up. But, now it's just making sure that we work closely with the utility companies, because understand that the guys out in the field, the line crews and so forth, they're not getting, it doesn't go from our inspector and then we turn it into utility company. It goes to that lineman. No, it goes to Monroe or some other location and then gets passed back down to them. So we're making sure that we have all the inside numbers to all those locations. So we're making sure that we get that information turned in as quickly as possible. But once it leaves our office, we can't,
Well, I've had a couple of experiences just with the state that Energy saying they hadn't got the paperwork back from the parish. But kudos to Energy. They 3 times that I've called for that particular issue, they jumped right on it and got it straightened out.
And Entergy is a good example, because if you're calling the local person here, well, yeah, they probably, at their end, they may only see that the parish hasn't turned it in, when in fact we turned it in 3 or 4 days prior, but it's a person in Monroe that's seeing that.
Right.
So,
but I haven't had any issues with that. I just wanted to make sure that we wouldn't get behind on inspection, so people were waiting, to get their power turned on or to get their roofers on their roof or something like that.
There's always 1 or 2, but generally speaking, if you can get your permit applied for in the morning, chances are you'll get the inspection either later that day or early on the next day.
That's good. Thanks.
Any other permit type questions? Okay, so for housing, so disasterassistance.gov. I know you keep hearing that one. it's important, no matter what your situation is, register. But that people are going to ask, how do I make this process faster? That's how you do it. Okay, especially if you're if you know you're going to be in need of FEMA's direct housing. The sooner you can get into that registration process, the better, because it's a lengthy process that FEMA has to find out who's eligible for that. They have to go through they'll go look at the different sites if they're going to be putting it onto private property. They're going to do 2 interviews. There's background checks. I mean, all that stuff takes time. So the sooner you get registered, even though that housing unit may not show up for 4 to 6 months, at least you've gone through the vetting process and you're eligible for it. So we're talking about the long-term type housing, but we're really taking a 3-pronged approach to housing. So the first is like we have the shelters, emergency shelters. We've put in requests to go set for base camps, and I've been in contact with all of you about that. And we've got right now 7 locations that we've turned in, and the number of people range from 30 to 100, depending upon the locations, and they're spread out throughout the parish. But those are congregate type tent housing where you have all these people. They do come with, they have restrooms and food distribution areas and stuff like that, but it's still a short-term solution. So the next approach would be the GOSEP, Governor's Office of Homeland Security Emergency Protection, for those of you at home. But GOSEP's travel trailers or temporary trailers, that kind of fills in until FEMA's direct housing program takes over. Or there may be some people who aren't eligible for FEMA's direct housing, but they would be for the GOSEP temporary trailer. So we're talking 2 to 3 weeks when those travel trailers show up, and basically it's anywhere from 4 to 6 months out that those would last. Now, if you are in a GOSEP travel trailer and you do qualify and are eligible for FEMA's direct housing, well, the hope is that that process just kind of transfers over, so you don't end up having to, move out of one trailer in one location to go into another trailer. I mean, it stands to reason it will just sort of transfer over. So we've got, right now, as you all know, you guys have been turning in names for the last week, and constituents have been contacting you. We've also given you an email address to give out at temphousing@tpcg.org. And then just recently we launched a web portal, which is at tpcg.org/temphousing. And that web portal is mobile friendly. Again, internet's down in a lot of places, but these are working for the most part. So it's real easy to enter your information there. In any of the formats that I mentioned, we're all putting it into a master list. As of about 5 o'clock this afternoon, we're looking at over 3,300 names. I imagine that number may, still fluctuate a little bit because we're knocking out duplicates where we can. We also have, we'll be going back through and contacting a lot of the folks for additional information. There will be a vetting process. We'll have to go out and make sure that the structure that was damaged is damaged to the point where they don't, or where they would be in need of that temporary housing. But all that's going to be done in conjunction with FEMA and with GOSEP, so we try and make this as smooth as possible. For those folks who have already registered with you guys, you don't need to register on the website. I know we just launched that. I think it was yesterday, and since yesterday we have over 1,000 people that have registered. So I'm thinking some of those may already be on our list, but that's okay. We'll be going through that. But that information is then turned over to GOSEP and FEMA, and like I said, FEMA's process, they'll be vetting it a little bit more in depth than we will, but we're going to try and get that rolling. We've got a meeting tomorrow with FEMA and GOSEP to kind of get an update on where things are at. in terms of when will we start seeing trailers showing up on our area. I know they're starting to procure and stage travel trailers in the Baton Rouge area, and then the contractors that they're hiring, these guys are going to haul and install. Our permit staff, we've worked with administration and with legal to get all of our local ordinances, zoning ordinances, everything in line to allow for these temporary housing units to show up and remain until they're no longer necessary. And we've also been in contact with our outside agencies like Department of Health to be on the ready for when we start tying these into various utilities and things like that. So I guess we'll just start in with any questions.
Mr. Navy?
Chris, one of the things I have a question about, and I was just checking some notes, but I'm just going to ask a quick question. You know, the success of a real recovery aspect is sustainability as far as permanent housing. So, you know, we could plan for, the short term as far as, temporary housing, and I can understand that. But we do know, and the ultimate aspect of it, to make a community a real recovery process, we have to have a permanent sustainability housing plan. So I just was wondering, does that play into the role with FEMA or federal government or money that's going to be coming to the parish government and things like that? Because we really know that people are going to still need some permanent housing. Mm-hmm. And I understand we plan, it's a plan, but planning for the short term. But at the end of the day, I still think we need some permanent sustainability plan to go in place with this. So I'm just asking, is that in the mix of things, to think about?
Oh, we sniffed that money out pretty quick. Okay. So we are going to be putting an RFP out, I believe, tomorrow for some assistance to help with the temporary housing, mm-hmm. to kind of help us administer it at the parish level. Mm-hmm. But what that also will do is free up me and certain members of my staff to work with GOSA. And we had a little short conversation about that just before this meeting, to talk about where we're going to be going with our long-term permanent housing, and how quickly we'll be able to get access to that money as compared to some previous storms. Right. And we're looking at reconstruction. Is certainly something that we're going to be pushing really hard for.
Because at the end of the day, the reason why I said it, if you really want to be successful in the process, permanent housing is the way to go. Because we all know that everybody's not going to be able to rebuild or all these other things. And then that will create other havoc within our community if we don't think about that aspect, permanent housing. Mm-hmm. So even in the Bayou community, the Bayou community receives a lot of, that they're going to need some assistance with permanent housing, not just temporary. Oh, yeah. So I'm just simply saying that that's going to be a town hall that Danny had a lot of, Trustclair had a lot of. So, we've got to think about that. I can see the aspect of really trying to look at housing now, temp, but at the end of the day, after a year, two, whatever, these people need to still live. They still need to exist. So I'm just saying, I think we need to incorporate that in the aspect. I'm glad that you're talking about it. But I really think we need to incorporate that in our success if we want to be successful as a community.
Oh yeah, we'll be submitting applications. We'll develop those programs and be submitting those applications to FEMA, GOSEP, and others.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, I agree with you, John. We do need to look into the long term. Right now, long term, for a lot of people in my district, is to get out of their car and get out of the tent that they're living in, and at least get into these big tents or into trailers. I know it's very difficult for us to pinpoint a time, but now that we've turned all these names in, these people are now calling us and texting us again. When are we going to hear from somebody? When do you think it's going to be? I'm not trying to pin you down to a date, but I'm just trying to get a general idea so people know what is going to come first. Tent cities, if you will, the trailers. When is that going to be? Or do we have an idea yet?
Well, I mean, I would think that the tent cities, the base camps are going to come sooner than anything else. I mean, and I'll know more after the call tomorrow But I mean, we submitted those locations Wednesday and Thursday of last week.
Correct.
So they've got the locations. I know they have to still lay eyes on each one. They have their representatives just to make sure that the places are adequately sized and so forth for the numbers of people that we're putting down. But I would think that those would be ready. I'm hoping sometime next week. Earl, I mean, I don't know if that's pie in the sky, but I mean, I'll know more tomorrow. But, you know, the trailers, I mean, not everyone who would be in need of a temporary trailer would be in need of the base camp. So, but I think we're trying to get this so that one follows the other as close as we can.
And again, I'm not trying to pin you down. It's been 34 days, okay? And some of these people, 34 days, they have been living in an automobile or a trailer. And we're just trying to give them hope. We don't want to give them any false hope. You know, and say it's going to be next week when it's only going to be 3 or 4 weeks from now. But we just, and I know it's difficult, but we need to try and relate to them if there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think there is, okay? But it's getting, you know, I have to say this. Out of the number of people that are living in tents and cars in the district that I represent, I've never heard one of them complain yet that the situation that they're in. A lot of people have complained about garbage and cable and things like that, but the ones that are living in a car, they're not complaining. They're just looking for that hope down the line. And all I'm asking is, please, let's try to expedite this as quickly as we can to get some of these people some relief, because for them right now, that is permanent housing, okay, to live in that tent city.
Well, and communication is the biggest tool we have. So as soon as we know, you know.
And I know y'all are. I know y'all working diligently to do it. I want the people to realize that we are. It's a slow process, and I just don't know how much time some of these people have left. It's very difficult. Thank you.
I had a gentleman from down the bayou I was trying to employ to help me to give him some work, and he says, in a couple of days, he says, I need to build an outhouse because we're in our tent right now because we can't get in the house, so I need some place that we can go to the bathroom. So I mean, that's he wasn't complaining.
Yeah.
You know.
And, I mean, we do have.
He just needed a couple of days to build his outhouse.
You know, shelters now that have space for people, but we also can appreciate and understand that the reluctance to leave their property. So,
Ms. Domain.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And I know you guys have been working so hard on this. This is a humanitarian crisis like nothing I've ever seen before. And you said 3,300. That's just individuals that signed up. So that would be approximately 10,000 at least, because you have multiple people living in households. So we're looking at a lot of people who are in need right now. There was a CBS special this morning. It was a news special that came on this morning, and the interviewer who did the report, he spoke to someone at FEMA, and they said that we wouldn't see the first FEMA trailer. That's FEMA, not GOSEP, till November. How accurate is that?
That's from what we're hearing. That's accurate.
Okay.
For the FEMA direct housing program,
okay.
Which is why I say that disasterassistance.gov is so important, because between now and that point in time, say it is, you know, mid-November, you might be through that whole interview process by that time.
Certainly, and this crisis hasn't not touched one of us. I mean, we've literally all have people who are affected. In the district I represent, we have a big population that live in apartment complexes that have been completely destroyed. What is it that the parish is going to do to assist these apartment complexes to be able to rebuild? Because you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of families who have been displaced. And so I'm just curious, what's the plan about that? And also, how are we going to hold these apartments or the apartment managers accountable for evicting these people? And I understand some of why it happened, but also there's some families that had absolutely nowhere to go and not any time to even collect their belongings. So do we have a plan as far as that?
Well, I mean, certainly from the building back side of things, I mean, they would have to we're going to work with them on making sure that everything's done correctly and safely. I spoke with several apartment owners, and they, the ones that I spoke with, it was a hard decision for them. I mean, I don't think they see it as an eviction. The people, their lease is still intact. They will be allowed to return, or at least be given the opportunity to return once it's safe to do so. I mean, I think we can all understand that you can't live in an apartment when they're, tearing out drywall and pulling up carpet and everything. But the programs that we heard about today on a call we had with FEMA earlier are really interesting for the multifamily types of setups. One of the programs they have is a multifamily lease and repair program, whereby an apartment owner, a duplex or more, that's what FEMA allows for, they can participate in this program. So for 120 to 220 days, FEMA will make the repairs to the apartment building. Then the owner at that point has agreed to allow FEMA to send their direct housing participants to that apartment complex to stay in for the period of time that they're in that program, which I think on average it ends after about 18 months, but they do have ways to extend that if necessary. And the apartment owner can't pick and choose who comes back. That's FEMA's choice. So that's an incentive for apartment owners to do that. I mean, some, may just decide to go through their insurance and get it built in a timely fashion and get their tenants back in so they can start, collecting, rent payments again and stuff like that. So we're going to try and help streamline and make things as easy as they can and make sure that they know all of the programs that are available to them.
And Chris, have you had any conversations with the state as far as our housing authorities, specifically Senator Circle and the high-rise building, as far as what are their rebuild plans for those buildings as well? Because we have a lot of displaced residents there as well.
I haven't heard any detailed plans for either of those two locations, but I know they're looking at ways to address the situation with the high-rise in particular. I mean, they've got, a fair amount of property out there with which to work with. I'm not sure if that building is salvageable in its current condition. Absolutely.
And Chris, whenever I express my frustration, it's not to administration, it's not to Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, but it is to our federal government and to FEMA. I am very disappointed in their willingness or their response. Yeah, exactly. Their response to this crisis. I feel as though, being that we live in the United States of America, we should have a better plan. And I think our federal government should have a better plan. And so when I express frustration, it's not to the job that you're doing. It's not the job that President Dove's doing. It's to our federal government. And I think that we need to do better. And as an advocate, I will make sure that I have my voice heard. And so I've made several phone calls. So thank you very much, Chris.
Sure.
Mr. Guidry.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with John on the long-term housing. There's a lot of people in the lower parts of the parish and in John's district, Carly's district, Danny's, and Steve's that won't be able to afford any kind of housing in the future. I mean, these are people that work day to day. They make just enough money to make a living. So in 18 months, 2 years, when these campers are leaving, where do these people go? And I'm agree with Danny too on the short term. I mean, we got people living in tents. I mean, Channel 4 News was down Cocodrie filming a lady, that's an elderly lady living in a teepee. It goes back. It is a humanitarian crisis, and there's a lot of people in Terrebonne Parish that have some damage, but they don't feel what me, Mr. Babin, and Mr. Trosclair are feeling. These people come up to me every day. Where's my home? When is my trailer coming in? I got a phone call at 3:42 this morning, wanting to know when campers were coming in. It's really bad. It's really a very bad humanitarian crisis. And like Ms. Domang says, Where's our federal government coming to help us? You know, we got to be, Dan, Steve, we have to look these people in the eye. And it's people that, not just people that's passing on the street, it's people that we know. And I can't just sit here and lie to them. I got to tell them the honest to God truth. Guys, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't have any idea when it's coming in, you know. It's just a sad situation. It's just not happening fast enough. What it is, 34 days so far since we had a storm. FEMA should have been in here the second day after the storm, or the first day after the storm, and just drove up down these roads and said, hey, Houston, we have a problem. We need to fix this problem as fast as we can. We can't let people living on these streets. We can't let people live in these tents, you know. What are we going to do for the future of these people? You know, it's our federal government that has let us down. I mean, we as a parish, I think we did an excellent job of what we can personally do with our finances. But how about the federal government, big brother, has got so much money, they're sending all these monies to these foreign countries. They left $90-something billion in Afghanistan to leave to go to terrorists. But we can't take care of the people in Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. It's a sad situation in the United States when we can't take care of our own tax-paying people, people that work hard all their life. And I'm not dogging on you, know, Chris. I got to dog on somebody, because if you know what I've been through for the last 34 days, it's sad, you know. And I see people crying to me, holding me and hugging me. I probably did more therapy than Miss Domang did in the last she's a therapist, I've did in the last 34 days. I've had people crying, and there's nothing I can tell them to, you know. And when they come to me, I give them a bag of ice. And these people with no homes that are grateful to have a $3 bag of ice, you know what I mean? So we have to do something. These are hardworking people. They're the heart of Terrebonne. Without my district, without Danny's district, and without Steve's district, we wouldn't have a Terrebonne Parish. This is the good earth. When you get out of the city limits and you start heading down the bayous, without these bayous, there would not be a Terrebonne Parish. So the people of Houma need to open up and have a heart for us, you know. When you're calling and crying because, hey, my cable's not connected, or hey, I still got some trash in the front of my house. No, these people that worried about a cable getting connected to their house, these people are just worried about having a roof to connect the cable to. So everybody needs to have, you know, have a little bit of feelings for these people that are really hurt. You know, I'm going to get off my bandwagon, but one other thing that Mr. Earl said, you were talking about the blue roofs a while ago, Earl. If you have registered for a blue roof and you have repaired your roof, please call back that number and tell them that you have a blue roof, because they will be coming and put a blue roof on top of your brand new roof. So please do that. So thank you all.
Mr. Dove.
Yes, and you reiterate what was said here, and I'm basically going to tell you that the meeting we had this afternoon, what was told to us, and I cannot promise whether this will happen or not. You got to understand that there's two types of housing, and I think most of you know, but I want to talk to them. You've got GOSEP, which is moving fast, and you have FEMA, which is moving slow, which I don't like to tell you. And like Chris said, this could be in November, a correct date for FEMA, yes, maybe December. But GOSEP took request for proposals. They have 30 vendors willing to supply travel trailers and these Connex boxes that you live in to GOSEP. They're saying in 2 to 4 weeks, they should start distributing these Connex boxes. The Connex boxes are a little longer, but the trailers, they should start. Like I said, I'm only saying what we were told today, and started getting them to the location. Chris and them have the addresses and the names you gave them. FEMA has identified about 800, 700?
Yeah, close to 800.
For the long-term housing. So these will be delivered to the location. They will be hooked up electrical, water, and sewage, providing the sewage treatment plant or the sewage septic tank is in working order. It's not that you use the septic tank. But they're giving us 2 to 4 weeks, and that's realistically what they told me, Earl, and Chris got an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Now, will this happen? I don't know. The first officer thinks that people will also pay the repair goal is to get those trailers in from GoSap, and GoSap is ordering. They are being ordered, and I asked him how many vendors will they be hiring to order, and he says might be 15, maybe all 30 of them, because we've all said get all 30 of them and get the trailers down here and let's get them to these people's houses. And so the placing in front of home is definitely going to happen. We hope in 2 to 4 weeks. But they told us that before, but now they've taken the request for proposals. They have the vendors, so they're going to start issuing PO purchase orders for tomorrow, and so that should get a move. That was what was told to us today, and that's basically where we at. And as far as long-term housing, Mr. Navy brought up at this point, is apartments. They will come up with long-term housing, affordable buildings that they were talking about. These things have to be built. I just don't think that's going to be fast. For our people, the best hope we got right now is GoSap, which is the state agency comes through, and Jim Watson's been good to work with, and I believe what he said today, and it was just great to see. And Chris is, is good to that. That's exactly what he told me. I'm not promising that's what's going to happen, but I pray to God that happens, and we get our people like Dirk and everyone up here was saying, get them out of tents and cars and get them into decent living. And yes, this should have been done. I mean, these should have been on the side, somewhere stored, and immediately after the hurricane, these things should sit down here, but the federal government won't do it. So like I say, GoSap came up, and they're handling it directly because we reimbursed by FEMA, of course. And so all this is approved, and they do have a request. The engineering firm that had won the monitoring is Actum, which is, I believe they have an office in the Untitled Chapter. Actum is going to monitor where the locations and where they're going, working with Chris Pulaski. So that's what they told us. And that was the meeting today. Thank you very much. I hope it comes through. But I feel like it's going to come through. But I don't know the exact time, but they're telling us 2 to 4 weeks. Thank you.
Mr. Michel.
Thank you. I'm going to kind of echo what some other people have said is why is the federal government moving so slowly? We know that they move slowly, but you know what? When it was time for these $1 trillion stimulus checks to go out, they didn't move slowly. That happened all so fast. Why can't they do something and do it now? I don't understand that. We have Representative Scalise, Graves, Senators Kennedy and Cassidy. I don't see their outrage. I might be wrong. Maybe I missed it, but I don't see their outrage at the lack of action that the federal government is doing. It's time to do it. It's time to do it now. It's time to stop waiting. GoSap shouldn't even be necessary. I'm glad they're there. I'm glad it's going to be sooner, but FEMA should have made it unnecessary to even have the state do it. If FEMA could have simply sent these trailers down and let the local governments who know what's going on distribute them and monitor what need there is. So I just don't understand the wait, and I know nobody has an answer, but I just wanted to share that. I had a question for Mr. Hughes. Is he still here? And you just mentioned something almost in passing about FEMA repair money. That's the first I heard anything about FEMA repair money. Can you say anything more about that?
Well, it's money that's available to people to do repairs to their homes. So if you go to the disasterassistance.gov and you apply for it, you tell them what the condition of your home is, and it tells you what you're eligible for, and you have to apply for that eligibility in order to get that. So
I have a lady I've been working with who I just happened upon. It's nobody I've known for long, but she's gotten 2 letters in. One letter says, hey, we're sending you $500. The other letter says we're sending you an authorization for hotel reimbursement for up to $900. And in both of the letters, in big bold print, it's saying this is not a substitute. FEMA is not a substitute for homeowners insurance. Okay, and she doesn't have homeowners insurance, so I just didn't know how that corresponded with the possibility of repair money if she missed something in the process.
If she has any questions with that, she needs to go to the DRC at the Civic Center and inquire about what else is she eligible for. A lot of people get denial letters. You have to go and fight that denial letter just like everything else you got to do with the federal government. So go over there. If you got a denial letter, please go to the DRC and get that looked at and see if you can get some more benefits.
Okay. All right. I'm going to see if I can help you with that. Thank you very much. And the one thing that hasn't been discussed this evening is getting the nursing home patients back to Terrebonne. Does anybody want to address that?
So yesterday, myself, parish attorney, met with LDH's attorney and came up with a game plan to basically put it into the Louisiana Department of Health's hands or decision on whether those nursing homes should come back or not. That should not be the Office of Emergency Preparedness decision. It shouldn't be the parish's decision. Those facilities are licensed by the Louisiana Department of Health. They should be the ones that should require to give them the permission to come back. The only thing we should supply to them is whether the infrastructure is there, whether there's electricity, sewer, water, or gas for that facility.
My understanding is that they have all that. Why do they need permission to come back? What regulation says that they have to have permission to come back?
Well, they have to get inspected by the Department of Health, the building itself, in certain conditions, and then they have to get inspected by the fire marshal. So there's some conditions that have to be met before they can come back.
Okay. And to your knowledge, have they been inspected by the fire marshal and the Department of Health?
From what I know, they have been, and then they also have to do a formal request to come back. From what we understand, 2 of them have made a formal request. One hasn't because I think it has some damage. But so the Department of Health is working on getting those patients back. We want them back like everybody else wants them back too.
Okay. So, all right. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh. Go ahead, Mr. Duff.
Yeah, and to answer your question also, Mr. Gerald, also in that meeting that we discussed was that Terrebonne General and Ashna Jabad does not have inpatient rooms. So if someone is brought there from a nursing home, they have to be brought. If they're rushed to Terrebonne General, they have to be transported to Thibodaux. Thibodaux now is taking care of Terrebonne and Lafourche, which is Terrebonne General, Ashna Jabbar, St. Anne, and Our Lady of the Sea. And the only thing they can respond to in that is that we will take a patient if we have the beds available. That Thibodaux can say. They can't say anything else. So the problem being, they may end up taking this nursing patient all the way to Baton Rouge or Alabama if they don't have the proper facilities. So, and that, like Earl just said, what was said in that meeting is they license them, so they have to evaluate the hospital situation in Terrebonne Parish, and we're going to submit to them our infrastructure, which we basically have everything running now, and they need to allow or not allow these patients in, not Terrebonne Parish, and that's what the gist of the meeting, and we're going to submit to them our infrastructure plan, and they're going to evaluate the hospital. Phyllis Peoples was in there, Tim Allen was in there to test that they do not have inpatient care, but they do have emergency rooms, but not inpatient overnight care, and they were in the meeting also that Earl is talking about.
Thank you. And, I would like for Mr. Greg Stock to have been there because, he certainly sounded confident that he could handle it. Morgan City has a hospital. St. Anne has a hospital with med-surg, no ICU at this time, is my understanding. And I'm not saying, hey, let's bring them all back. They got to come back. I'm saying let's give them the opportunity and let them sign a waiver if they need to sign a waiver. To say, hey, we understand that there's no inpatient hospitals in Terrebonne, and that if Thibodaux's full, they may have to go to New Orleans or to Baton Rouge, and that may end up being a problem. But let the families make this choice, because right now we have these people, some of them suffering from dementia, and they're in unfamiliar surroundings. They need to be back, number one, in familiar surroundings, number two, close enough that their families can come and love on them, and we need to get them back home. This is where their home is, and at the same time, these nursing homes have staff that are away trying to care for those patients in crowded scenarios with limited staff, And then there's other staff who couldn't go away, so they're not able to be paid. And it's just a whole host of problems. Now, I don't want anybody to come back if it's unsafe. But let's give them the opportunity. Let them sign a waiver if we're worried about liability, and let them do what they think is best for themselves. Thank you.
And I think it sounds like you have a path forward after the meeting.
Yeah, the path forward is we provided the LDH with the information that they needed this evening, and it's up to them to make a decision on whether or not they can come back or not.
And the regulatory body then will make that call.
That's correct.
Mr. Trosclair.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to jump back on the federal government. We're talking about the inhumane treatment that they're given to people to our people down here in the bars, all the Terrebonne Parish. But the bars were the hardest, basically the hardest hit in the parish. And the least, in general population, the least they could afford to get hit like we got hit. No, I don't have cable yet. We talked about cable. I don't have cable yet, but I did manage to put up a little HD TV antenna, so I do get to watch local news. And so this week, they've got a big border crisis with illegal immigrants, and they're being inhumanely treated on the border. And I guarantee you, the next day, the federal government was on top of it. We've been inhumanely treated here for 34 days now, and the government ain't stepped in one iota yet. The pennies that y'all talked, the $60-something million of FEMA money. I saw a newspaper ad that Jessica showed me, $112 million. That don't even pay for the gas that these people put in their generators to try to keep electricity in their houses. So we ain't getting nothing. We haven't got anything, and now we're getting told that it's the end of November or November, sometime in November, maybe we're going to start getting housing assistance. So, at least afford the United States citizens, legal citizens in the United States, the same opportunities you afford the illegals trying to come across the border. That's all I'm asking. Give us the same treatment. I mean, we don't want to be treated as second-class citizens when you're treating illegals with the utmost respect and mercy, which they truly deserve. I don't advocate mistreating anyone, but take care of ourselves at least as good as you're taking care of those illegals. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
There are some factors I'm going to get into, but I want to make a statement because there's no red or blue here. This is not the first rodeo for this area. This is not the first rodeo for the United States of America. We remember, and we can have some understanding what happened during the time of Katrina. We can go back to the people in Puerto Rico and even the Haitians who actually suffered not only hurricanes and devastation of volcanoes and the loss of their earthquake and the loss of their president. Again, we look at the tetrahedron that fused a lot of this. One, politics. Two, profit, the people, and bureaucracy. And there's so many ways to look at this, and I've actually talked to every council person here, probably more than twice, maybe 3 times. In consideration of my heartfelt feelings for the citizens of Terrebonne Parish that are on the bayou, that do not have an opportunity to sit in a building right now, which I'm cold of. I'm actually cold with lights. So get rid of a lot of the things that we have to do. We have to address the issue. I think we've made a lot of progress in reference to the electricity getting up basically on the west side of town. I've actually told the people within my district and my community that I'm associated with, it's time for us to move the line and not move the line to help the people down south and don't do so much complaining, because the real part about this. We all are in this together. So we're at the point of housing. And Millie has actually been driving me because, Carl Harding was there early in the morning telling people to evacuate. And then Carl Harding is getting calls about when they're going to actually come back. So these people that basically, not just these people here, but then I am in consideration of the people within the Bayou communities. And we basically probably within the same economic status within the urban part of the society and these physically and mentally challenged people that come from the high rise. So the question is when are we going to go back? And I heard Chris said that, really the numbers are escalating with their counseling findings of how they get back home. And these people are wondering about urn and new furniture that they were buying and stuff like that. And in reality, I have to tell them that it's not really possible and it's unlikely. I really feel appreciative of your efforts, and we look at where we are right now, the urgency of housing across the board. A lot of people are calling me about FEMA trailers, and we took so many applications, and my first thing I said was the math don't add up. If we're going to get so many trailers and we got so many applications, it won't add up. We have to get those tents up. We have to get the first things first. Because, if we got 3,000 applications and 10,000 people to go into these trailers, and I'm going to have to be the one to tell the people, you didn't get it, but I want the process to be explained, how that actually goes, because it will get to us. And then somehow or another, all these names that we've been counting, the thousands of names and the 700 names and the 400 names, we're going to have to get an answer to people because originally it came to us. So I think we're on the right track with those tents. We also have the shelters, which is immediate. We had some mentioning of the flotillas. Long term, like John said, this is part of our rebuilding process. I think if we can, as we rebuild bigger and better, or just plain or better, it'll be all right for down the body. So I think we're going to make this work. There's some questions I want answered by you guys, or even to make the statement so some of the people that I represent can understand this. If a person goes to a hotel out of FEMA, everybody looking for FEMA, but then FEMA got two sides of it. If a person goes to a hotel out of FEMA, that's a limit to the amount of time that they can be there, right?
They'll be in the transitional shelter program, and there is a limit. It's 30 days.
It's 30 days.
And then typically in other disasters that has been increased, extended. There's no guarantee, but they may extend it for 60 days or 90 days. But it just depends on if FEMA grants those extensions.
Yeah, and basically what I've been actually also telling the people that if you are in the system, like both you guys were saying, register. So don't leave the system. So if you fall for that FEMA thing where you're going to be out the system or go somewhere else and you'll be stuck in Oklahoma trying to get back, then you have to basically, if they want to get back, they probably have to go through the Red Cross, shouldn't they?
No, if they're out of town right now, they're going to have to find a way to get back. Okay. So however they got there, they're going to have to try to find a way back. And then if they're in the system, if they're in disasterassistance.gov and they're getting FEMA assistance, they can get reimbursed for some of their costs, okay? But they need to talk to a FEMA advisor before they do something where they're not going to get reimbursed. That's why they have the DRC and that's why they have the helpline. You need to make that phone call to make sure that you're going to get reimbursed before you go and do something that you won't get reimbursed for.
Right, so it leaves us in the position so that we're in right now. So it brings back to the urgency what type of housing, whether it's emergency, temporary, mid-range, and long-term.
That's correct.
All right, and staying in the system. Don't leave the system because once you leave the system, you're saying you're okay, right?
Well, you don't really leave the system. You're in that system and you're always a registrar. I mean, I got on the system to see just how it works. Okay. The problem was when I got on it, I don't have enough damage to see what everybody else gets to see because I don't have any damage. So you don't get out of the system. You stay in there until you've done all your appeals and your denials. But if you need some help and you qualify, you're gonna get the help.
Yeah, like I'm saying, if you're in a shelter or you're in a program and stuff, don't leave the program until you're actually satisfied, because once you get out there, that's it, or what?
Well, I don't know if you're going to get out, okay? Right. I always tell people, if you're in a place right now that's safe and you're using transitional sheltering, you need to stay there until you find another alternative.
Right.
If you don't have another alternative, then you've left a safe place.
Stay. That's the point I want to get across. Yeah. Okay. And a lot of our people, even the system that we originally started out with, was owners. I think we're going to expand besides the owners, and then now FEMA has something that you can have proof of ownership. I saw something on TV this morning where the guy actually said in the report that you can talk to the mayor or whoever, and then show proof of ownership for taxes. And we have people, and hopefully FEMA can come in and help, because even though a person have had insurance, they can't afford a $4,000 or $2,000 deductible. So it serves for some understanding for us to do our job. So I only said that to get a few things out, to know that. Okay, Chris.
Well, just to touch on that for a second. Once you register for the disasterassistance.gov, there's different, things you might be eligible for. One of which, there's like a $500 kind of, they put $500 to cover immediate costs, like if you had to go purchase food, things like that. But one of the other items in there is an SBA loan, SBA, Small Business Administration. So everybody automatically thinks, well, I don't have a business. If you don't have a business, I don't have a business, so I'm not eligible for that. Well, that's not true. They do have a homeowner and renters loans that they could apply for through FEMA, through SBA, that I think the interest rate's 1.2%. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty low. That's as cheap as money gets. But you can use that money for exactly what you said. You can use it for a deductible, or you can use it for other expenses that you may not have that money, immediately available for. So that is, again, another reason why it's good to talk to that FEMA rep at those locations, because they know how the system works better than anybody else, and they know how to streamline it.
Yeah. One more thing, and I did find that out, and I'm done. We talk about bureaucracy. That's one thing about the tetrahedron I represented, and this is the part: bureaucracy. I found that there was a disconnect between the Homo Housing Authority and HUD to do, and who's responsible for those tenants that came out of that high-rise. I tried my best, and I'm pretty sure we've had some conversation in other manners with this, but then somehow or another, I feel as if that's very, very important for those people, because most of those people that are setting off in the municipal auditorium, my people. I visited them, they're very, very concerned, and I think they feel within their own heart that they have been shortchanged.
So talking to FEMA Administrator Tony Robinson this afternoon, he's going to get a HUD specialist to come down and talk to us in reference to Bayou Towers and Senator Circle. But there may be some relocations in there. You just can't rebuild a $50 million building overnight. Okay, if that's what the cost to rebuild, I don't have any idea, but that building's not going to get rebuilt overnight. So some of them residents may have to go spend some time in New Orleans or Houston or somebody, if the housing if that's all that's available. Because, I saw pictures of that facility. It's pretty much destroyed.
And which is the point that I'm actually bringing out. See, it's one thing to say they're gone, but then if you come in out of the senior citizen type residence and you go to Houston, that's their concern. And then I'm only trying to address the concerns of those people that they don't want to leave. They don't want to go to New Orleans. And then it goes all the way back to where we are right now. The emergency, the temporary, the mid-range and the long-term, the rebuilding, the revitalization, the recovery in our Terrebonne Parish. These are citizens of Terrebonne Parish that we actually should aggressively pursue their opportunity for them to stay in Terrebonne Parish. Me personally, Carl Harding, I do not want them to leave Terrebonne Parish.
We don't either.
Yeah.
And the other aspect was there's some assistance where HUD will pay for a rental unit and a portion of it, whatever they were getting to live in Bayou Towers, and then they would have to come up with the other portion of the rent if they want to go. There's some other avenues. We just have to meet with the guy and see what the avenues are to assist those people. You had 300 residents almost in there. I got 50-something in the shelter. That means I got over 200-something people elsewhere. So, and I want them to come back just like you want them to come back, and we're working to find some solution to get them back.
Yeah, and they watch us live streaming and stuff like that. But then it helps me out to have something to support, because it's difficult to say I'll make a 5 to 10 minute visit at the shelter, and it takes me an hour and a half to get out of there.
Right.
So it's good to get the information out there for them. I know, and I want to let them know that not only am I'll let them know that we are working for them, but it's just something I just wanted to be exposed out there publicly to know that we're actually trying to address their needs. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I could help answer.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Dell.
Okay, Clay, there's $28 million of insurance on that building. So I've been talking with the board, the housing board, about aggressively going try to find some property. And I mean, FEMA, you get FEMA money for that, but as we know, FEMA's a long term. So, and to try to build some type of apartments and all, but like I said, it's not overnight, like Earl said, but we do have $28 million available in insurance that's going to be readily available. And we have to decide, and because we'll come back to the council on the quickest way we could build something with that and get these people, and I'm like you, keep them in Terrebonne Parish. So there's $28 million in insurance.
Finish, Mr. Harding?
Yeah.
Ms. Domain.
I'm good with that one.
Yeah, thank you. Most of my questions were answered, but I have one more question. We've got a lot of families in Terrebonne Parish that it's not uncommon for them to have 5, 6, 7, 8 members in just one family unit. And when we think about a camper, we think about a travel trailer, it doesn't seem like a very large space. And so what is our plan for those families so that we're not splitting families up? And is the space going to be adequate? I'm saying, I know personally a mother who, she has 6 and 7 kids, and it's not uncommon. So I just am curious about that.
So in the interview process of finding out what their needs are, they will, take family size into consideration. They may be placed in the past. If they had a family of 6, they would put 2 travel trailers on one property, and one adult would stay with 3 of the kids, and the other adult would stay with the other 3 kids in separate trailers. They've done that in the past so that they can both stay on it. The other option is to use a modular home, which will accommodate that many people. But the problem with that is it may not fit on their property. If it doesn't fit on their property, then it will go to what we call a group site, and that's where they will reside at the group site if possible. So they will take that into consideration. That's part of the interview process that FEMA has done about 791 interviews already with our residents to find out what their needs are as far as direct housing goes. So I hope that answers your question.
also, we're learning a little bit more every day. One of the other things, in addition to group sites, if you have someone who say that they have a larger family and maybe they're eligible for a mobile home, okay, FEMA's looking at all kinds of options. You mentioned the flotels and barges. They're looking at mobile homes, travel trailers. But if their property isn't big enough for whether it's a mobile home or even a travel trailer, but if a family member or a friend or a neighbor has property that is big enough and is willing to let them stay on that property and they just put that in writing and that goes in with the application and they can stay there versus going into one of the larger group sites. So there's just ways to get it, but it's really stuff that gets vetted out through that interview process.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Mr. Babin?
Okay. Yeah, everything everybody's saying here is what we all feel. Okay, but I'm hearing 4 different things. Long-term housing, which we know is down the line. Okay, we can't get that. $28 million right here, that's just a start to build that building. Okay, the next step down is FEMA, long-term trailers, if you will. So we look at 4 to 6 months on getting all of that done. And then we moving down to GOSEP with the trailers. I think Mr. Dove said 1 to 2 weeks or 2 to 4, 2 to 4 weeks, okay? Our immediate problem right now, and I think what we really truly need to concentrate on is these, and I keep referring to them as tent cities, but you know exactly what I'm talking about, to get some immediate help for these people that need it. The other things seem to be in the process, even though they're a lot slower than we'd all like to see it. They're at least in the process. In this meeting that y'all had this afternoon when they said 2 to 4 weeks, did they say anything in terms of longevity or how long it would be before we see these tent cities?
Well, no, we didn't. The guys that we were meeting with aren't in charge of those particular programs, right. But that's what tomorrow morning's meeting is.
All right.
So we'll know tomorrow morning.
And again, I don't hate to keep harping on it because it is the immediate problem. The immediate problem is to get some people, the people in the apartments, and I have some too, that's very important, all right, because we want them to come back here. But evidently they're living somewhere else right now, okay? The ones we're talking about in Dirk and Steve and I's district, and some of the other districts as well, they don't have anything right now. So the sooner we can get it to them, the better off they are, okay? And the better off they are, then maybe we can start sleeping at nighttime, not waking up thinking about the people that we helped today, try to get something. And listen, it's not you guys. I'm not killing the messenger by any stretch of the imagination. You guys are working diligently at it. Again, these people need help and they need it quick. And just to address one other thing, that the pods worked out beautifully, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of other locations down Grand Kaya, by the Lodge, and other areas that are getting volunteer and are getting supplies from agencies all over this country to supplement the pods. Because the Holy Family Church, Anchor Church, Kirby Verrett's Church, the gym and by the Lodge, these things are all run extremely well and doing a lot of work. So I didn't want us to forget about those because the pods did a great job. But again, quick as possible, let's get some of these people in something that's a little bit more permanent than what they're living in right now. Thank y'all.
Mr. Guidry.
Yeah, I'm going to get off a little bit of that discussion a little bit, but that we're going to have a problem down the line that we need to address. All these buildings and all that are total loss. Is there any plans on the government coming and tearing them down and hauling them to the road? Because if not, in 3 years or 2 years, we can have dilapidated buildings with 15 foot of grass all around them, and that's going to be another crisis. So is there anybody that'll do that? Is the government that pay for that, or is that on the? Because if it's on the homeowners and they don't even have a place to live, they're sure not spending $4,000-5,000 to tear a building down. They're just going to leave it alone.
Well, Dion Stewart and I, Dion is over nuisance abatement division. We had that discussion yesterday, and you can bet that part of the money that we're also going to be sniffing out is money for that purpose. We know it's coming. We have to be cognizant of when are we going to be accepting of, okay, well, that structure is not going to be repaired, and we be sensitive to the property owner. We don't want to do anything that, they weren't ready to move on, and here we come with the dozers. I mean, our condemnation process and our derelict structure process, and just like they did some years ago with derelict vessels and CDBG, I mean, we're going to have to ramp up that nuisance abatement division to handle what we know is coming.
But there's a lot of people, Chris, that know that what they got is no more good, and they need it torn down, and they just can't afford to do it. So with these people, you don't have to go to the process. All you got to go do is knock on the door that they used to have and say, hey, do y'all need help getting rid of this building? Because I'm pretty sure 55-60% of them are going to stay tired down because it's no good.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And yesterday I had the discussion with legal that when we have a willing property owner who just can't afford to do that, we can forego some of the procedures in terms of, warning letters and all that stuff. Hey, look, I know I can't do this, but it still would involve some sort of, public hearing approval before you guys through that nuisance abatement, unless we come up with another procedure specific to this disaster. But we could do that by submitting applications for specific programs like CDBG or others, so that we can get to
I
it
wish
quickly.
I would look to see if there's some money somewhere that we could get this done and get it done quickly, not where it's going to take a year to get these places demolished.
And vessels too.
And vessels. I mean, we got a problem right now in Lokai where my fishing fleet can't get down out of these bayous because there's boats flipped over, and there's camps in the bayou, there's houses in the bayou, there's trails in the bayou. And I mean, look, it's 34 days since the storm, and they're still floating around by Lokai. Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Trosclair?
Yeah. Dirk, I want to see if I'm following you right now. We're looking to get some money to help these people, but we don't want to put liens on their property like we go through the whole normal abatement process, right? That's okay.
I think he's talking about.
You talking that we were going to still go through that process. That's not. I don't think that's what Dirk intended. I definitely don't want that either.
Yeah, I think another way to put it would be for us to develop a program like we would do for an elevation program post-storm. It's tied to a specific event. It would just be for removal of derelict structures.
I mean, that's all these people got left.
Yeah.
Nothing against those things. All right, thank you.
And we could create an app for that. If you have a home, we got an app for it. And you have that meeting tomorrow for the 10 cities. If you don't mind sharing the information with the council, if there's any headway made, that'd be awesome.
As soon as we get done and I have all the information, you'll have it.
You don't have to do it at the meeting. You can wait till it gets done. But thank you, guys.
It's not too early.
Anything we need to cover in COVID? Do we still have that COVID around?
Do we still have COVID?
We still have COVID. We're at about 11.2% as a percent positivity, which is a lot less than what it was before the storm. But I need to remind you guys, there's not a lot of testing. People aren't going to get tested. Okay. So we got 19,041 cases. I can't tell you the difference from Thursday before the storm was the last time we looked at some stats. There have been 312 deaths. I know those deaths have gone up since the storm. So at the next council meeting, I'll have some more statistics for you. But no, we do have a monoclonal antibody infusion center at the civic center. The municipal auditorium behind the auditorium. So people that have tested positive and their doctor prescribes the monoclonal antibodies, they can go to the behind the civics the auditorium and get their monoclonal antibodies. So, but they are doing testing daily, and they are doing vaccinations, and people can get a booster now. So if you're on Pfizer, you have been and you meet some specifications, you can get a booster. So I recommend that you go get your booster. If you haven't got vaccinated at all, go get vaccinated. But those of you that have Pfizer can go get your boosters.
On that subject, Mr. Harding has a question.
Yes, sir. We actually gave out more vaccines the week we opened the shelters here than we did the week before the storm. So, people are trying to get vaccinated because they're congregating in other people's homes and in shelters, so they want the vaccine, which is a good.
Thank you, Earl.
You're welcome.
Moving along. I think we're on item B. Emergency ordinance effectuating the appropriation of emergency funds for the dedicated emergency contingency funds regarding destruction and damages due to Hurricanes Ida and Nicholas, moved by Mr. Steve Trosclair, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance passes. Resolution authorizing the Department of Utilities to contract with One Priority Environmental Services and the Homa Generation Station for the removal of the cooling tower abatement and cleanup.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Carl Harding, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item D, resolution authorizing Parish President Gordon E. Dove to execute any and all documents related to funding through the Capital Outlay Program for several projects.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Steve Trosclair, seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Item E, resolution concurring with the parish administration to award bid 21-WHSE-36, purchase of a new unused transformers and wire, 6-month requirements contract to the lowest qualified bidders, Utility and Industrial Supply and Westco Distribution Incorporated. Move Mr. Danny Babin, second Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Item F, resolution concurring with the parish administration to award bid number 21-JUV-31, purchase, delivery, and installation of facial recognition temperature stations and the upgrade to an existing camera system to Homeland Safety Systems Incorporated. Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Second to Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution passes. Item G, resolution authorizing Parish President Gordon E. Dove to sign a contract on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government with WNF Solutions for consulting and representation services with respect to Hurricane Ida recovery efforts. Move Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Go ahead.
Can you explain, like in short terms, I was reading some of this earlier, exactly what this consists of?
Yes, sir. So the VNF Solutions is the firm that we are going to try to do a consulting agreement with out of Washington, D.C. It's a bipartisan group, and the whole point of it is to have them advocate for us to get the funding. So the money that Chris was talking about, the CDBG money, some of the money to help with the housing, some of the money to help get rid of the housing, the derelict houses and vessels, all of that is something that we need to get federal money for. So we want somebody there to help advocate for us to get as much money from the federal government as we can. We know it's a slow process, and we know that we have to have somebody there fighting for us every day. So that's the purpose of that.
Okay, with some of the money that's supposed to be approved or whatever for the area, and I think some of the Lake Charles, if they caught up in this deadlock right now, what's going on in Washington,
So I don't know that answer for you fully, Mr. Navy. I know that I read something this week that there was some stuff that hadn't passed that was supposed to pass. So that's another reason to have somebody else, there for us that's on top of it, and that's what they're going to do. Okay. They're going to follow all that. We are in the process, just to kind of give y'all a little update on the financial side of things. Our insurance adjusters are out here. They're looking at all of our buildings. We are working through the policies to see what we can claim. we have to go through insurance first, and then we'll go through FEMA. Now that we have some of the estimates from Clay, we're going to go ahead and try to start doing some FEMA reimbursements while they're prepay us stuff. So we won't have to have the actual documentation until later on. So we're in the process of that. We have a consultant that is helping us with the FEMA paperwork as well, because it's going to be more than any of us have ever seen. We have the company out, Cotton, that is doing our cleaning up the buildings. It's all emergency work that they're doing. It is not permanent work. Once we get it to where we're ready for permanent work, we have to go through the procurement process. We have to go through bids. We have to get the quotes before we can do any permanent work. So hopefully FEMA will pay us back for that permanent work too. So we're trying to do it. We're trying to cross all our T's, dot all of our I's, and get as much money as we can. It's just a very long process.
Yeah, and that's why I was asking, because I know some issues with what's going on with the budget and so it's bad. So I know that even though we get this through, I know it's going to be a holdup with all the crap that's going on down there.
Right. And when we talked to the group, when they met with us, they mentioned that what was coming up was more for Lake Charles, and what will be for Terrebonne Parish will probably be in a month from now.
Right.
I don't know how that's going to change since what happened this week.
Oh, yes. I can tell you. You can meet with me about that. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Navy. Mr. Guidry?
John, quite a few years back when they had a storm, there was monies that we could have gone after in Washington, D.C. that our parish government or our council did not go after. And it came up to about the sum of $400 or $500 million that Terrebonne Parish lost by not having these consultants to go after our mob monies. I mean, Mr. Dove might know a little bit more about it, but I can remember back when, and this is before I was a councilman, that we lost out on about $400 or $500 million. And I mean, we need to go after this. I mean, it might cost us a little bit of money, but in the long run, I think it's beneficial for Terrebonne Parish.
You can respond.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I was just saying about the issues of what's going on now in Washington with the budget. You know, that delay is going to, even though we got this consultant, that's good, but the delay with the Washington situation is a problem. And something that Gerald said, I agree with too. You know, we got our representatives too, congressional representatives. They got to be storming and cuffing and fussing and have a passion like you have and get something done down here, because that's the situation that I think is holding us up. With this deadlock with the budget, with all this bureaucrat politics, land politics, and people want to make money. And I think that's not the issue here. The issue is what Danny was saying. People. We need to serve people. Thank you, man.
But I just think, what they're doing right now this week in Washington, I mean, it's a disgrace what they're doing right now, but they need to come back in the future. But this money's right here. It's something that we need to have some consultants hard in Washington to go after, because there's a lot of money sitting on the tables that we as Terrebonne Parish don't know how to go about getting it. But when you got people like Mary Landrew and high dignitaries like that, they know where to go get these money. They know which rock is hidden on you, So we need to do whatever we can to do the best we can for the recovery of Terrebonne Parish, like this $400 or $500 million, like we were just talking about a little while ago with this long-term housing deal. You never know if we can use this $400 or $500 million to build something or to get these monies to give back to people where they can maybe possibly do something back on their own property. So, I mean, I think this is a great thing to go after. And I think Mr. Dove or whoever started this, I think, congratulations, because like I say, I know a few hurricanes ago, a few years ago, even before, we lost out on $500 million, Terrebonne Parish did, by just us not going after this money. So that's what I was after, John.
Thank you, Mr. Navy. Thank you, Mr. Guidry. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution passes. Item H, resolution, a letter of support for the National Heritage Area Act, S. 1942, program legislation standardizing the designation of national heritage areas. Move Mr. John Amity. Second, Mr. Danny Babin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution passes. 6:30 public hearings relative to A, an ordinance to enact Section 21-31 of the Code of Ordinances to name Splash Park located at the Homa Air Base after Melvin Johnson, Jr. So we have a motion to continue public hearing by Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is continued. Item B, an ordinance to amend Section 21-30A and 21-31 of the Terrebonne of the Parish Code to add the Melvin Johnson Jr. Splash Park to the list of alcohol-free and drug-free locations. Motion to continue, Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say... Oh.
I understand why we continue public hearing. That's the question.
Go ahead, Mr.
My understanding is the reason we continue the public hearing is because we're holding this meeting in an unusual location. We have absolutely no public here, which kind of supports that, and we're just going to wait until the next meeting and when we can have time to republicize it when there are more people who may be able to come comment if they want to.
The public wasn't invited? Or just
the public is invited, but this is a special meeting because it was not on one of our published scheduled dates that we published at the beginning of the year.
It was on the agenda, though.
It is on our agenda, and I mean, the council has a choice to not approve the continuation. Nothing says that we have to do that. They're just making a motion to continue it, and if the council chooses not to continue it and the whole public hearing and vote on it, it can do so.
Okay, well, I would like to revisit then A because because my concern is why is it on the agenda if it's not nothing like you, Joe. I'm just saying. Why is it on the agenda if it's emergency meeting? Why this is on the agenda? So it shouldn't make no sense to continue.
Well, we're on item B, and we have a motion and a second. Do you have a substitute? Let's finish with B, then we can revisit A. How about that?
Make a substitute motion on B. Well, we really can't because we need to name it first before we can make it an alcohol-free zone. So I'll make a substitute motion.
Okay.
To go back and revisit item A on the 6:30 public hearing relative to.
Can you just withdraw your motion there, Mr. Michel?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have no motion there. We have a motion to revisit it. We have a motion to revisit it by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor say aye. We're revisiting A, an ordinance to enact Section 21-31 of the Code of Ordinances to name the splash park located at the Homa Air Base after Melvin Johnson Jr. You can make a motion to close public if you want. Public once, public twice, 3-time public. We have a motion to close by Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. Any discussion? Yes, sir?
I don't know if this is going to be to legal or to council clerk, but do we have this on the agenda because we're trying to meet some timeline? So there's no time requirement that we have to, from when we spoke about this in committee to when we have to.
Do we know, were these public hearings advertised?
Mr. Chairman, the public hearings were advertised, but because we didn't have the 2 September meetings and the public was not able to come to these meetings, what I talked with the clerk about is that we would move them to October and give the public the opportunity to come and speak on these items if they choose to do so.
But were these ordinances, were these public hearings advertised?
Yes, they were advertised.
So they were legally advertised.
Yes.
So it is at the will of the council.
Yes.
Okay. So we have okay. Any more discussion on whether to close public hearing? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay. We have a motion to approve by Mr. John Navy, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is approved. Item B, an ordinance to amend Section 21-30A and 21-31 of the Parish Code to add the Melvin Johnson Jr. Splash Park to the list of alcohol-free and drug-free locations. Public once. Public twice. 3rd-time public. Motion to close, Mr. Danny Babin. Seconded, Mr. Dirk Guidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion to adopt, Mr. Dirk Guidry. Seconded by Mr. John Navy. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is passed. Item C, an ordinance to amend the 2021 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget for the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. 1. Sanitation vegetation, $10,221. 2. Animal shelter donations, $12,536. 3. Sanitation, new department, $238,800. 4. Public safety pensions and relief fund, $35,667. 5. Capital improvement bond sinking, $1,598,196. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Danny Babin. Second, Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Motion to adopt, Mr. John Amity. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Gerald Michel. Do we have a light? Mr. Trosclair.
Yes, Candace, animal shelter donations. Now, Darren didn't read donations when he was called out animal shelter. It's showing 12,500. When you go to back up, it's showing that we received 12,500.
Correct. It's
But here it's not.
well, it's showing as it's donations that have been received. If I remember correctly, it was received over a period of time, and it's also recognizing the expense to purchase the medicine that those donations were made for.
Okay,
So it's going to be a revenue and an expense side of it. It might be taking it out of fund balance if it had been collected the prior year.
With zero neutral. Yeah.
Right, the revenue and the expense will
In the
match.
backup it shows a negative, and then over here it shows a positive.
Sorry, it should be a positive. It's picking up the expense side of it.
Thanks a lot.
Any more discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance passes. Item 2, vacancies of various boards, committees, and commissions. The Veterans Memorial District, 1 unexpired term due to resignation and 3 expiring terms on September 17, 2021. Recreation District 3A, 1 expiring term and 1 unexpired term due to resignation. Recreation District number 6, 1 expiring term. Recreation District number 7, 1 expiring term on October 24, 2021. Bayou Blue Fire Protection District, 1 expired term. Terrebonne Parish Tree Board, 1 vacancy due to a resignation. TITA, 3 expiring terms on September 9, 2021. 1 representing each of the following: the Terrebonne Parish Council, Homa Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce, and the South Central Industrial Association. Airport Commission, 1 expiring term on October 14, 2021. The Coastal Zone Management and Restoration, 4 expiring terms on October 31, 2021. 2 representing the public, 1 representing recreational fishing, and 1 representing property owners. The Homa Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, 3 expiring terms on December 31, 2021. 2 representing civic nonprofit organizations, and 1 representing the Homa Terrebonne Regional Military Museum. Announcements. Council members, any announcements? Okay. I do want to make an announcement, and that is I did not assign anybody to the Public Service and Homeland Security Committee because in the previous years it had been inactive, but in light of what's going on, I feel like I need to assign that. So the person who served on that last year was Mr. Carl Harding, so he has agreed to serve as the chairman of the Public Service and Homeland Security Committee. So thank you, Mr. Harding. Do you have an announcement?
Yes. There are a number of people that actually contact me. It wasn't a very expensive deal, but then there are some people that were out there that donated to my district and some members in our district, and I actually expanded it and donated to other districts. So for everyone that donated to Terrebonne Parish, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And again, a special shout out to School Board President, Mr. Greg Harding, and also School Superintendent Philip Martin for allowing us to use this building in our time of need. Mr. Michel.
Yeah, and I just want the people of Terrebonne Parish to know that from a personal standpoint, my family and I are praying for you as you go through this time of recovery. And again, I ask everyone to have patience. And for those people who have residents in a nursing home that are not here, I will continue to personally look to see what I can help to do to get them back in Terrebonne Parish. Thank you.
Monthly engineering reports. As per Mr. John Amity, seconded Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye. Motion adjourned, Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. We are adjourned.